In a subway station in the middle of the night, there was a man standing in silence when he saw a woman sitting on a chair, a woman beautiful enough to be remembered in his memory because he had seen her here several times. He looked for a seat and returned to observe the woman. He had apparently met her many times and was curious about the beautiful girl, because she always came home late in the middle of the night. In the long silence waiting for the train schedule, he couldn't shake off his curiosity, probably more interested in the beautiful girl who always came home alone. Looking at the instrument she carried, he thought that she's a music major or she's in a band. But due to too long observing made the girl look in his direction too. So that made him startled, because he was afraid of being thought like a pervert for staring at her like that. Although they meet often, maybe only he is aware of her existence. Thinking things like this are just coincidences, not fate. The quiet silence made him even more awkward. So he couldn't focus and wanted to calm himself with a song. A song from someone who became an encouragement in his tired life. With the title Dark Planet from the singer Long Afternoon. He immediately played the song, feeling very calm after hearing the amazing intro no matter how many times he heard it. He thought this song was a hidden gem because not many people knew this singer, maybe because it has a different type of song from the popular songs in Korea. But the cheap earphones he bought produced an unclear sound, making him turn up the volume until it exceeds the maximum limit, until the beautiful girl was suddenly beside him and said something to him, making him so shocked that he took off his earphones. He was confused why the beautiful girl had approached him all this time. It turned out that the sound of the music was too big and she could hear it from the opposite seat. It turned out that his earphones were not connected to his cell phone, and he thought he was disturbing other people because the sound of his music was so big. But suddenly the girl started a conversation, asking if he liked the song. He was unfocused and she said that if he liked the song because she liked it too. He was speechless, not believing what she had said, and felt very excited because he finally found someone who liked the song in front of him. He was excited because he was a huge fan of this person and asked again if she liked it. The woman was confused in response and replied that she also seemed to like it. It's amazing because he never met anyone else who likes Long Afternoon, even though the music is very good. They started chatting and said that his music doesn't fit with the current trend, and he doesn't promote himself, which makes him less famous. He was very confident that if he did a concert, his name would be spread everywhere because of the songs. The singer only uses anime images as her characters on Instagram, though it would be great if he posted photos of his daily life or face. The woman was not convinced and asked if he should show his face now. But apparently it's not really necessary, because as a fan, he just wants to know how the original creator of the song looks like. With his mysterious concept, he liked the way Long Afternoon is just as it is. Hearing his words made her smile a little, and asked that they have run into each other here a few times, right? The man was shocked, and was confused to answer her question because he was caught staring at her. She advanced towards the train that had arrived, and thought that he must have known they had run into each other a few times, because she realized he was watching her every time they met. Seeing her beautiful face under the lamplight mesmerized him. He was even more shocked by what she had said. It shocked him that the beautiful girl was actually paying attention to what he was doing, that he had always been watching her, that they've both been taking the same last train, made him scream because he was so ashamed of what he had done so far, thinking that he's doomed and accidentally shouting out loud, making the boss at work surprised because he suddenly shouted. He asked what if he was mistaken for a stalker or a pervert. His boss didn't understand what he had said. Inside the cafe at work, he explained to his boss about what had happened. Her boss Oyuju said that it's nothing, and said it just means that girl was also aware of him. He's worried he creeped her out and thinks she wouldn't have kept going to the same platform again. Of course, she would have avoided him a long time ago if she thought he was a pervert. But she doesn't shy away, and he should talk to her properly next time if he wants to know how she feels about him. Who knows, she loved him from the first sight. Since he thinks about her so much, he must have feelings for her, right? But he explained that it's true he's aware of her, but not the kind of feelings. Because he doesn't trust himself to talk about romance while he has to prepare money in his already tough life, so he doesn't have time to have romance feelings towards women. But if he is curious about a woman, isn't that how it starts usually? He refused about it and just wanted a friend to talk about the music he liked. So Oyuju concluded that that was the first step a relationship usually starts, which made him angry that she concluded as she did. So they stopped talking and refocused on work. The day ended at midnight, and he returned home from work. He doubted if he would see the girl will take the last train today as well, and will apologize so that she doesn't think he's a creep. Of course, after that, he would talk about Long Afternoon, but he paused and thought, hoping she thinks the same way as him. But when he got there, his seat was occupied by someone who was drunk, so he fell silent, seeing him occupy the entire seat, making him very upset because he used to sit here. Though he saw the girl and intended to start a conversation. The girl was also aware of his arrival, but he decided to stand up and continue reading for fear that it's weird to force a conversation, because he doesn't want to get even further away from her, so he'll just pass without saying anything today. But suddenly, in the middle of his thoughts, the girl greeted him, so he looked in her direction. She said that the train was still a long way off and asked if he would wait while standing. Of course he didn't want to, but what else could he do since there were no seats? Making her confused by what he said because the seat next to her was still empty, and invited him to sit until the train arrived, making his heart skip a beat hearing what she said. They stared at each other as he looked confused, to sit next to her or not, because he remembered the old memories that became bad memories of a woman in his life. Back then they also got close like this and left him traumatized, but he decided that back then was back then and now is now, until he finally sat down quickly next to her shyly, even though he took a safe distance away. She started a conversation about why he was always heading home late. He explained about his job on the evening shift at a cafe, because he works a part-time job, while living his college life, which is in its 4th year, which of course is quite tough because of working late and studying too. He then replied to her question whether she was also heading home late from work, but she spontaneously replied that she just liked hanging out with men with peculiar tastes, which made him shocked to hear it. She explained about people with hardcore and unique preferences, and often dealt with such clients before going home. Hearing the words hardcore and unique preferences made him imagine what kind of wild work she was doing. Seeing his expression made her smile because it was clear she was just teasing him, and set the record straight that she works in a music studio with practice and recording rooms. Because a lot of office workers' bands book it late at night, leaving him confused after hearing her explanation. She teased him again, did he just think of something strange? Because she said something strange about hardcore, where hardcore in music is a genre, but it was different from what he imagined, making his face red because she totally leads the pace of their conversation. She discussed how he knew about Long Afternoon because he was busy working and studying and definitely didn't have time to explore music. And the singer is such a hidden musician. He starts a story when he was seriously ill. He felt very lonely because no one took care of him and the house felt too quiet. So he thought he should play some music and searched randomly. That's when he found Long Afternoon's Dense Planet, and at first he just thought the melody was good, but the more he listened, the more he loved everything about it, especially the lyrics that felt like throwing everything away with lines like "Let it be." Hearing that made her pause at how deep his words were. He returned her question and asked what's her favorite song from Long Afternoon, and replied she also liked Dense Planet and said Title Flow is also great. He responded very enthusiastically and explained the superiority of the song titles she mentioned. He continued to praise Long Afternoon's instruments as brilliant and made her face blush when she heard them, which made us think she might have something with Long Afternoon. In the middle of their conversation, the sound of the train is arriving echoed, ending their midnight conversation. She stood up but was still thinking about something, what he said earlier, about the phrase "let it be," and said if Long Afternoon heard that, he'd be so happy. He wasn't sure but was quite happy to hear her words, but he also felt lonely because he still wanted to talk to her, but it's not like wanting to date or get closer to her. So he embraced himself and introduced himself as Lee Yo-eun and asked if he could know her name. In the silence while the sound of the train coming, she looked at him and introduced his name as Shin Hae-in while smiling beautifully. After this, she wanted that when they met again, he should be the first to say hi to her, and if not, she would ignore him for life. He was very happy to hear that, so their parting would be a long-awaited moment when they would meet again. It was already very late, showing the state of the apartment where she lived. She was seen taking a shower, wearing her beautiful nightwear, and immediately sat on her bed. She was still thinking about Lee Yo-eun because it seemed like she had seen him on the train before. At that time, the train was deserted, so it was only Lee Yo-eun and a drunk man beside him. She saw the drunk man's wallet and thought someone might take it, and sure enough, someone took the drunk man's wallet, but he was the one who took it and put it back in his pocket. She watched from a distance what he had done, because he might be mistaken for a pickpocket, so naive. But she knows, a good person like him doesn't think much before showing his kindness. She lay down while lost in thought. Of course, she didn't expect someone so kind to also be a fan of Long Afternoon, especially not such a passionate, devoted fan, making her even more restless on her bed, thinking would he like her if he knew she's the Long Afternoon, or change for the worse, like her dark life in school, where she saw her schoolmates listening to her music and made it like a joke, which made her have a very sad trauma in school. Thinking about it made her very scared, because she suddenly thought about something she didn't want to. Anyway, She thinks people who like Long Afternoon only like the song, not like her, so there's no reason for her to reveal that she's the Long Afternoon. As long as she keeps making good music, it doesn't matter if the anime character named Kin-Oh who takes the spotlight, and says she's fine just staying as Shin Hae-in just as she is, as long as she can keep doing what she loves about music. The next night at the music studio, Shin Hae-in was at her workplace. She sat thinking while holding a pen and tablet, preparing an anime picture of her character for the next one she uploads to Insta. The young men had finished using the studio, making her ask, are they checking out of room A? The man asked, can he make a reservation for next Monday at the same time? With his face flushed, he ventured, asking for her number or her Insta address because he wanted to send her a message all this time. But she was silent for a long time in response to his question, and immediately apologized because she didn't want to tell him. He left miserably, embarrassed at being laughed at by his friend who was sure it wouldn't work. She just watched them walk out and decided to clean up the studio since it was empty. Silence in the studio, there was the sound of the vacuum cleaner she was using. Suddenly there was a man's voice calling him. It was Shin Hyun-sung, a 38-year-old man who was her uncle and studio manager. He came to tease her because he saw someone asking for her number, but she refused even though he thought he was her type. Hae-in wonders why he was peeping at her secretly. Her uncle argued that he saw it just by accident. She just doesn't like giving her number because she doesn't like talking on the phone. And more importantly, that band isn't her style. He informed her that the recording reservation for 10 o'clock today was canceled, so she can go home early after cleaning up. She looks at the clock, and it's 8 o'clock now, pretty happy that she has more time to work on her new songs at home today. But her uncle came back to her to give her a gift. Because it's White Day today, so her uncle bought it on the way here. He bought it because people were going crazy about it on SNS. Hae-in asked her uncle for permission to be able to practice guitar for a bit before she goes. Until when it's quite late, showing the cafe being cleaned up and about to close, Lee Yo-eun finishes his work and he's going first, leaving his boss who is still at the cafe. And she encourages him to have a romantic journey home today. He finally arrived at the train station, sighing at his chaotic life. Because he was supposed to raise my language scores, but he's still struggling with it. In the middle of his thoughts, someone suddenly approached him, seeing Hae-in standing right in front of him. They smiled and greeted each other, but he was distracted by something because he saw her carrying a gift from someone. Hae-in is sensitive and tells him that she got a gift on White Day today, making Yo-eun quite weak to hear it. Because he thought that a woman like Shin Hae-in, who is very attractive and has great style, must have a lot of cool guys around her and give her all kinds of gifts. She started talking about Yo-eun, who seemed to be struggling while studying, so she gave him sweet things to give her some energy. But he was confused as to why she was giving her gifts, with the excuse that she just doesn't like sweets and will throw them away when she gets home. But he rejects it because this is a bit too much to accept the gifts that other men give her. Hae-in was confused by the word man as he said it, which made them fall silent in confusion. She explained that the gift was from her uncle. Hearing that he was very embarrassed because he misunderstood Hae-in's attitude, he took it quickly and Hae-in looked at it, thinking him looks like a fool. It was a handmade caramel that was hot these days, and thought it would be good to eat while taking a break from studying. He held it and had never seen it before, while telling Hae-in to take a few because her uncle gave it with sincerity. So she agreed because surely her uncle would be angry if she didn't know the taste. She asked Yo-eun to give her one, while opening her mouth and closing her eyes, asking her to feed her. That surprised him a lot, and she reasoned that her hands were greasy after tuning the guitar. Hae-in said, just put it on her tongue and she'll suck on it. Hearing her rather vulgar words made Yo-eun a little hesitant, but he had no choice but to do it. He started to unwrap the caramel and directed it to Hae-in's mouth as she held back her hair. She immediately took a bite of the caramel, instantly wanting to vomit as soon as the caramel entered her mouth, because it was so ridiculously sweet to her. Yo-eun wasn't sure if it really tasted like that, but he made the same expression after eating the caramel. Making their heads really hurt after eating the caramel, they just laughed and thought it would be better with coffee or bitter tea. He was very happy to see how they were doing and offered the caramels to Hae-in once again. In the morning of the next day, showing the condition of Yo-eun's apartment, who was still fast asleep in his bed, the alarm sounded on his phone, woke him up even though he had only been asleep for like 30 minutes. He thought about making breakfast, but he saw the caramel on his desk, which Hae-in gave to him. He decided to eat it again and was immediately shocked because it was really so sweet that it woke up his sleepy brain, and this was the perfect meal from a girl who made him excited in the morning. Suddenly his phone rang, he looked at it and was shocked, seeing a notification from his favorite band Long Afternoon, who has uploaded a new post after a long time. Yo-eun was seen doing his work at the cafe. He delivered the orders with great enthusiasm, doing it with totality. Everyone could see the smile on his face, as if they knew something good was happening. His boss also asked him what caused him to be like that. He spontaneously replied that his favorite musician updated their Instagram, but she was confused as to why Instagram could make him so happy. It turned out that he had been waiting because they hadn't posted anything for a long time, and hoped there would be a new song that made him very excited waiting for it. But her boss was quite disappointed because he thought something romantic had happened. She asked if there was any progress with her, the girl that he said he always met on the last train. He didn't know what progress she meant because it's not like he likes her or anything. But still, if he met often, at least he would grow close to her. He also just realized he haven't even seen her in the past few days, and told her they had been getting a little closer, like exchanging their names. Also, she gave him caramel on White Day. Hearing that made her very excited to hear the story. Like, how did they exchange names and who told their name first? He replied he told her his name first and then asked for hers. Then she imagined romantic events like in the dramas she watched, making her quite happy and asking again if he had a meal together as a thanks. But he finished the story like a cliffhanger, leaving her disappointed that it didn't live up to her expectations, said that he was very boring because he should have gone further and asked her to drink. She was quite annoyed that her boss was always teasing him. In the middle of their conversation, a man came to order. He was tall and wore a hat to cover his identity, but handsome enough for a coffee customer. He immediately processed his order and told him to wait. Looking at the man, Yo-un thought his face looked familiar. He told his boss that the man's face was very familiar. His boss saw the customer he was referring to and said that he was the famous musician, Sung Hyun-jae. Hearing that made him very surprised why he was here. The afternoon part-timer told her that he was one of our regulars of their coffee. No wonder his aura is very visible because he's a public figure. It's amazing that the hottest musician these days turns out to be a regular at their cafe. He left immediately after receiving his coffee, walked to the car, and immediately got in to enjoy coffee. Inside the car, he checked his phone and smiled slightly after hearing Long Afternoon's song that he recently found, especially seeing the mysterious identity that makes his unique song even more amazing. He listened to the song until the end, thinking of sending him a DM to go for a collab afterwards. It was already midnight. It seemed that Yo-un had finished his work. On the way, he hoped to see Shin Hae-in tonight because he was excited to talk about Long Afternoon's Instagram post today. He was surprised just by imagining it. He's already very happy and feels it's the best feeling ever. He arrived at the train station, but he was quite disappointed, not seeing Hae-in in her usual seat, wondering if she's super busy these days. He even thinks she's avoiding him and thinks did he mess up her somehow. But from behind, Hae-in appeared to see Yo-un's disappointed face, making him very shocked because of her sudden appearance. He smiled, quite relieved because he thought he wouldn't see her again today. She asked, "Is that why he was so disappointed? Disappointed about not getting to see her again?" Seeing Hae-in suddenly flirting with him felt something different about her, especially seeing her red face. Apparently she was drunk because it was very obvious. She said she recently finished up something she was working on and had a tiny bit to celebrate. But when Yo-un asked what she was working on, she said very suspiciously that it was a secret. Seeing her expression made him speechless at her cuteness, thinking that drunk Hae-in is the best, until he couldn't focus because of her beauty. He distracted himself and talked about the image that Long Afternoon uploaded to his Insta. But before he could finish speaking, there was an echoing voice that the train is now arriving, making him surprised because the train arrived quickly. He hadn't even had time to talk about anything with her. He was very disappointed about that, until he thought of something. He made up his mind and said firmly, inviting Hae-in to grab another drink together tonight. Hearing that made her pause because he asked her to drink when the next train was the last one for today. Yo-un didn't realize what he was saying because he just wanted to chat. He looks like a strange man who suddenly suggested having a drink together. He imagined this makes him seem like some punk who hits on strangers in the streets. So he immediately apologized to Hae-in for his words, but she'll do it, and replied with enthusiasm, because she doesn't want to end her meeting with Yo-un, especially for today. So they have to drink together just a little more. He didn't expect something like this, and he didn't even know where to take her. They immediately got on the train, but Yo-un couldn't feel at ease sitting next to Hae-in, because every time the subway shakes, his shoulder brushes against woman and gets excited over such a small sensation, and think it's not like he's some middle schooler going through puberty. Hae-in opened the conversation by asking for his address and suggested drinking in that area. Although he's worried about how she'll get home, but Hae-in can handle that much because she's an adult. Of course he feels bad, and will pay for the taxi when she gets home. But Hae-in warns him to take care of her if she gets really drunk, approaching Yo-eun's ear while whispering that if she gets drunk, she usually sleeps naked. Hearing such vulgar things made him shocked to imagine in his mind. Seeing his response made her smile at her teasing and said she was just joking. They finally got off at the next station, walking towards the place where they were drinking. He says that this neighborhood, it's a 5-minute walk in his one-room apartment, making Hae-in feel like where Yo-eun lives is pretty nice. He pointed out the direction they were drinking, which was a place he had been to several times. She trusted him with everything and would follow him. Moments after they walked there, the place he usually went to was closed for the week, making him feel bad for her. Yo-eun immediately apologized for not checking first. He was quite confused to find a new place at night, especially since he hasn't drunk much recently, so he doesn't know where to drink around there. He was even more confused because his internet was slow, and he couldn't imagine a drinking place that had a cozy atmosphere. Hae-in was worried about his confusion, so she suggested a good idea to Yo-eun. Since it's getting late, there's only one place they can drink in and sure he knows well. With her face flushed, she suggested to drink at his place. Hearing that suggestion made him pause and rejected it no matter what. But finally they arrived at his apartment. Hae-in began to enter and look around. Luckily he had cleaned her apartment last week because otherwise it would have been very dirty. Before they went in, she asked him something. She asked if he had a girlfriend, but he was confused as to why she was asking. It was because she didn't want to cause misunderstanding because she'd look like crazy girl breaking into a man's place with a girlfriend. That was the thing that made her want to ask. He replied that he didn't have a girlfriend and was single, which allowed her to drink freely. He asked her back because he was also getting worried, but Hae-in said she already has someone. She tells him about her foreigner boyfriend who is good at singing and really good at fighting named Lam. Hearing this, he gets scared and wonders why she said yes to his invitation for a drink. Seeing Yo-eun's silly face made her smile, because she just made up a fake story and lied to joke around. She explained that the person in the story was just a vocalist in a famous band and thought he'd know because he loves music. He was scared enough because he was worried he might unintentionally hurt someone's feelings. Hae-in sighed, feeling guilty, then invited him to cheers to liven up the atmosphere, because tonight, no one will be hurt if they drink together as much as they want. But he's not convinced because a woman as beautiful as her doesn't have a boyfriend yet. So she answered him once more to calm him down. After a while, they had already drunk a few cans. The conversation got wilder about the long afternoon that he found a hint on Instagram post. He saw some clues like numbers or objects in the picture that would indicate when and what the next song would be released, though Hae-in didn't mean to put that meaning in the picture she drew. He was very happy to have searched for clues and finally found out that the next song would be released in April. He was excited to wait for the latest song from their favorite musician. However, Hae-in became concerned because she wasn't finished and didn't plan to release it in April, so she thought about releasing it sooner than later. In her drunken state, Yo-eun suddenly said, hearing Hae-in's voice, "It sounds like a long afternoon." Hearing this made her quite surprised because the characteristics of their voices are the same. Although he said that Long Afternoon's voice must have sounded fresher to make Hae-in upset. She didn't expect him to talk about Long Afternoon the whole time they were drinking, but she was quite happy to hear him talk. But Yo-eun was afraid of boring her. Hae-in stood up from her seat and asked him to continue talking until she climbs into his bed, saying she'll just lie down and listen to what he has to say. But of course, if she lies down like that, she'll fall asleep while listening, and it sounds like listening to ASMR. And she finally asked him permission to let her listen to him and then sleep in his bed for tonight. That left Yo-eun speechless as he looked at the woman who would be staying at his apartment and confused as to what to answer. The room went silent instantly after Hae-in's question. He just answered, "Is that so?" because he was hesitant about the question. But she emphasized once again that is she staying not okay. Because Hae-in is often teasing him, he thinks that it's just a joke. She got up and brought her face closer to Yo-eun. Whether it's a joke or serious, is it up to his answer? If he says leave, then it's a joke, and if he says stay, then it's serious. And asking his wishes about what he wants to do a joke or serious. He went back to thinking about what he was feeling. Suddenly, the memory of his happiness when he met Hae-in came up and he said to stay anyway, because there's still a lot he wants to talk about, and also he has tomorrow off. Hearing that answer, she smiled happily and immediately opened her pants, which made Yo-eun spill her drink in shock, asking what Hae-in was doing. She said she just unbuttoned her pants because she only drank beer until her stomach is full and unbuttoned her pants to relax, making him both relieved to hear it and disappointed. He offers her to change her clothes, lend her a training suit to make her more comfortable. But it turned out that their beer had run out and the one in her hand was the last one. Yo-eun volunteered to see if he could buy more so they can get even more drunk tonight. He gave his clothes to Hae-in and rushed to the convenience store near her apartment. He asks her if she needs anything else like a toothbrush or something, but she already had that in her bag, except for one item that she didn't bring. She just realized it earlier, it's getting close to the date, so she needed a sanitary pad and asked Yo-eun to buy it for her. Arriving at the convenience store, Yo-eun felt confused because he had never bought anything like that and imagined that it would be used by Hae-in. He just picked it up randomly because he didn't know which one she used often. But from that place he saw something familiar. He saw rubber as a safety measure for couples and wondered if he should buy those condoms, banging his head to wake him up from his drunkenness. After he sobered up, he started thinking clearly, although Hae-in is an attractive person, but he should take it slowly and don't mess things up by rushing, because he doesn't want to get rejected like last time because his feelings were too strong. He just wants to see her always on the last train, and that makes him so happy. But he started imagining things again. If Hae-in takes the initiative tonight, of course he has no reason to refuse. Imagining something like that makes him hard, and now he can't even get up. He walked out of the convenience store and returned to his apartment. He opens the door with excitement, but there was no answering sound from Hae-in, making him confused. After he entered, he was quite surprised, seeing a beautiful girl who was already wearing his clothes on the bed. Turns out she was already asleep. It looks like she's exhausted because she said she had something in her mind recently. Although he was disappointed, he would let her sleep to rest. But he whispered her to wake up for a while, because she would catch a cold if she slept without a blanket. But suddenly Hae-in pulled his body so that they almost kissed, leaving him confused as to what was happening. He held his body from falling on hers, but suddenly she smiled and said that Yo-eun was very handsome and completely her type, which made his face turn red after hearing Hae-in's words. But she suddenly fell back asleep and said random things. That was like talking in her sleep. He covered her with a blanket, opening his shirt to get ready for bed. He imagined Hae-in's warm breath that he felt just now, and said if Hae-in had embraced him just then, he wouldn't have been able to push her away. Even though he knows they're drunk, but he can't stop his feelings when he's being led. They ended the night only to sleep until the next morning. Yo-eun woke up from his sleep, feeling his neck ache from sleeping on the couch. He didn't see Hae-in in his bed and wondered if she was in the bathroom, but he saw a note on the floor that she left first and didn't wake him up because he seemed to be sleeping deeply. She could have left right away, but Hae-in put the trash and the beer he just bought in the fridge. But suddenly he saw the condom box on the floor. It startled him because he didn't feel like buying them. But why are these condoms here now? He thought back to who bought this item and recalled his memory of last night, when he thought that he didn't need it tonight, but it turned out that he bought it unconsciously because he was drunk, and he needed to be prepared for that moment. Remembering that made him weak, because Hae-in must have seen it and must have been shocked to think he was a pervert, making his scream loudly because she must have thought he was flirting her for a one-night stand. It made him think about it all day on his day off. The next day at the train station, he showed up with a flushed face, seeing Hae-in after their last meeting in his room. She was the one who saw Yo-eun, smiled in a very pretty and arrogant way, greeted him back and started a conversation that she thought there was something important they should talk about. Yo-eun was panicking because he was afraid that Hae-in would talk about the condoms he had bought. He imagined excuses, and quite plausible ones, like that it was actually for a school assignment, or actually he bought it as a charm that helps him with exams, or actually he accidentally bought it while trying to buy vitamins. But there was no good enough reason in his mind. That's ridiculous, and lying would be so pathetic. So he decided to just be honest, even if it meant getting scolded by her. But Hae-in cut him off and asked permission to say something first, so he let her speak. There was something she wanted to tell Yo-eun that, temporarily, she wanted to keep some distance from him, and it shocked him. He asked her why she was like that. She realized that she doesn't feel any tension when she's with him, especially last time when she was drunk. Maybe because she used to hang out with her uncle's bandmates talking about music. So she guessed she played around with him without much caution too. And without realizing it, she crossed the line, so she wanted to put some distance between them. Hearing that was the last thing he wanted to hear, so he quickly apologized for the condoms he had bought. Hae-in was shocked that he suddenly brought it up, so she laughed because he was bothered by that after all. It did catch her off guard, but it didn't bother her so much because they're adults. Thought she didn't expect he'd consider a one-night stand. Made him apologize because he really didn't suggest that. Anyway, that's not what she meant by crossing the line, but when she wanted to tell him the truth, she was quite embarrassed to say it. So they were silent for a while, and finally with a flushed face she said she's just too unbearable. He, who didn't understand, asked what she meant. She thought about the things she did in that night. Every single thing she did was obnoxious and unbearable, like barging into someone's apartment, borrowing clothes shamelessly and sleeping on the host's bed. It made her very embarrassed to say it in front of Yo-eun. But after he thought about it, it was the right reason too. That's why she ran away without even saying goodbye, because she really felt so bad about it. Hearing this made them silent, because this is really surprising. Because she always been cool and confident, like didn't care about what others thought about her. But now seeing her regret, feeling embarrassed and apologizing like that, it's so unexpected to him, and now he knows. He found this cute side of her different from her cool nature, making Yo-eun trying hard not to laugh. Anyway, if she stayed close to him, she's afraid she might do something rude that's similar again to him, so she might not come to the station for a while, making him silent, and suddenly shouted that that's not okay for him, until he didn't realize that their faces were too close, making her confused as to why that's not okay. He shouted unintentionally, looking for a reason that Long Afternoon might release a new song soon, so he wanted to talk about it, especially with her. She was quite happy to hear those words, but she doubted that if she stayed close, she might do something stupid again because of her drinking habits. She might do something even worse. Yo-eun loudly replied, "That's okay. That's okay if the actions she thinks are rude, he will handle all of them. Even the mischievous jokes of her and her wild drunken antics, he can accept all of it." So he hoped to don't distance herself from him forever, making her silent after hearing the words from him, until the echoing sound that the next train is arriving was heard, making her smile because she was relieved and wanted to pick the snacks next time she came to his apartment, deciding that she would come to his apartment again, which made him very happy, of course. Hae-in was very happy to see him excited, so she suggested to keep what he bought last time because they might need it soon. What he bought last time, of course, it was about the condoms he had prepared for emergencies. Seeing his expression made her very happy and answered the beer, of course what he bought last time, while teasing Yo-eun. She walked until she finally reached the apartment. She was seen taking off her shoes and took off her jacket after reaching her room. She's relieved that he didn't get upset, because she doesn't want if she got hated by him, making her recall his words that even he accepted her rudeness. Her embarrassing history won't just disappear and make her shame unbearable. So she immediately jumped on the bed because she felt strange with her attitude, like some perverted freak. She also imagined what would have happened if she hadn't fallen asleep that time. Of course, they will clap like crazy until morning. Hae-in kept thinking about the continuation of what she imagined, until her face turned red because of it, making her uneasy about what she was thinking because it was so dumb. So she wanted to distract her mind to focus on the music. Finally, she opened her phone. It turned out that she had received a DM, which makes her very doubtful whether this is really a real account or a fake. Because who has sent her a DM is a musician named Sung Hyun-jae, who is very popular in South Korea now. The next day, the sound of music rang out in the studio. Hae-in was practicing with her guitar. With her beautiful, serious face, she was very focused on playing the rhythm of the guitar, until the last strum of her guitar pick ended her practice today. She practiced so intensively that she was quite exhausted, and also forgot about the DM she got from Sung Hyun-jae yesterday, so she just ended up overthinking and couldn't reply. It turned out that she was still confused, even though she thought doing a collaboration with Sung Hyun-jae sounded fun. In the middle of her thoughts, suddenly someone knocked on the studio door. Her uncle asked if she was still busy practicing. Hae-in replied she's about to finish it. Her uncle invited her to eat heltaegbaki for dinner today, although she was quite surprised that her uncle asked her to eat something spicy at night, but she agreed very happily. After a while, the food finally arrived. Her uncle was excited because tteokbokki was his favorite food when he was stressed, and he told Hae-in to eat it while it was still warm. But it seems she's still in a quandary. She feels like it's rude to reply too late, so she needs to decide quickly. Her uncle sees her confused and asks if she doesn't like the food. She had no problem with the food because it was quite good, until she finally told him what happened. She told him that Sung Hyun-jae suggested her to collaborate on a song. Hearing that, her uncle was shocked because that's a great opportunity. But it's just that it feels sudden, so she's kind of hesitant. His uncle thinks that does Sung Hyun-jae make unreasonable demands? But she said he is a really successful musician, so if they do a collaboration, she'll be in the spotlight too. She's worried her face might get recognized because of this collaboration. Hearing this, her uncle thought quite hard in giving advice, because he's afraid of misspeaking due to the usual motivations he can't tell her. He knows what she went through when she was younger, the pain and the scars that made her suffer until she cried. Even now he doesn't know if she's still in pain or not, but he knows it's there. But on the other hand, he hopes she can overcome that pain quickly and spread her wings. While Hae-in was upset because the effects pedal she saw this morning was already sold. Her uncle suggested how about she meet up and talk to him first, because as a fellow musician he might be able to understand her position and come up with a solution. Even if she don't collaborate, she could still get closer through this opportunity. And if she meets, he could get his autograph, making Haein upset that her uncle was using her. Until the day reached midnight, Haein was seen leaving the studio and walking towards the train station. She was too busy thinking about it when she was supposed to adjust the guitar line for the new song. On the way, she saw something about the celebrity whose face is always everywhere. It made her confused. How does celebrities get so much attention from everyone? She asked how they endure people's judgment and live. How much courage does it take to overcome that pressure? Until someone's silly face stopped her from her heavy thoughts, making him pause at Yoon's behavior, asking about what he was doing. He told her that there was a special employment program today, so he's just reviewing what he got. So just now is expression practice because a natural smile gives a good impression. Haein wants to take a quick look at that brochure. She was amazed that he had to pay attention to so many things for just one interview. He said he also needed to create a story that fits the company and introduce himself according to trends. She observed this and thought of an idea. She asked him to try something. It was a game to speak without avoiding the interviewer's gaze. He was confused about what to do. She explained she'll ask him any question and he must answer. Of course, if he avoids her gaze, he's lost and out. He hesitates to do it here because it's quite embarrassing. But it's not like anyone else is around right now. Until they finally started the game. Haein happily observed his face, but different from his usual silly face. It's been a while since she last saw his serious face. She was amazed to see such a serious face. That's probably Yoon giving it his greatest effort. She's sure he will give everything he has in order to push forward. Imagining Yoon wearing a semi-formal suit with his hair slicked back, she wanted to see him so bad. But she asked, and shattered Haein's fantasy. So the question will soon be asked with her face still flushed. She asks when was his last kiss, making him very shocked. He gets angry because no company will ask personal questions because it's not some drinking game. Because it was too boring, she disqualified Yoon. Doing all this energized her and made her forget the burden she was overthinking. So she gave something to Yoon, her lucky charm to give his good luck. A guitar pick that she uses when playing electric guitar because it holds the energy she puts into her practice. She hoped her enthusiasm would help him succeed in the interview. Receiving a personal item of hers made him very happy, thanked her and definitely bringing it to the interview. Seeing Yoon's excited face makes her feel his enthusiasm too, and teased him back like she always did. Finally, they went home. In a dark music studio, Song Hyun-jae was still working on his music, until his phone rang, making him check his phone. So that makes him smile to see the reply from Long Afternoon, seeing a fairly unique reply that makes him very interested. I hope he will leave their relationship alone, and this is the first time I wish this character was a gay. The next day, Haein finally visited him in the building they made an appointment. But she was confused because she didn't know what floor the studio was on. Suddenly, a man came up to her, asking her if she was Long Afternoon. The man introduced himself as Sung Hyun-jae. He's grateful that Haein didn't have trouble finding the place because these alleys all look so similar. Then asks if she's alone or bringing her band members. She explains that she usually works alone and the other members just help out during recording and arranging because everyone else is doing their own thing. He was interested in a band but also a solo artist. Hyun-jae takes her inside to chat further. He asks if she should call her Long Afternoon or what. So Haein introduces herself, and he can call her whatever comfortable. He decides to call her Haein to be more familiar, though she cringes a little too much at the sudden familiarity. They entered the building, up to the upper floors where the studio is. He says that the company meeting room is under renovation, so they will chat in his studio. Saying company, Haein is shocked and asks if this whole building belongs to him, but it turns out he just leases a few offices here and isn't that rich. But he hopes that the label he created can buy the whole building someday. It amazes her that he's showing off that he's already made a label. Hyun-jae was silent, looking at her face, because her reaction seems lukewarm, unlike his expectation when mentioning about the label. It makes him wonder if she's not interested in his label or if she's so confident that she can succeed on her own. He's amazed by Haein's level of confidence, even though she's just tired and sleepy because she stayed up all night composing yesterday. After a while on the road, they finally arrive at the studio. Hyun-jae offers her something to drink, but she declined and she'd like to get straight to discussing the collaboration project. So he complies with Haein's wishes. He gives him the contract terms and asks if there was anything she wanted to ask. She asks if they do collaborate, will she have to participate in live shows or promotional activities with her face revealed? For that matter, that's entirely up to her. She can stay as a faceless artist or join him in going around for activities. He shared that the reason he wanted to collaborate with her was Long Afternoon. Wasn't just because he thought it would be successful, but he really wanted to introduce this talented artist to the world. But Haein doesn't care about this bastard's sweet talk. He wants to show his demo song right now, so he prepared it for a moment. Waiting for that, Haein was a little relieved, because if performing live was a must, she was going to decline it. Hyunjae finally told her that he was going to play the song. Haein started to hear the beginning of the song. The song was very melodious and had many interesting parts, making Haein quietly enjoy the song, until suddenly she became upset. She asked Hyunjae, "Does that mean she's just featuring as the vocalist on a song he has already finished?" "Yes." And he asks her if the song isn't good enough. She said that the track is amazing, but she wants to add her style to this song as well, making her tell Hyunjae to step aside for a moment. She picks up the guitar and puts her hair in a ponytail so it looks pretty. He said to mute the unnecessary track, but Haein immediately deleted it. It makes him sad that he spent some sleepless nights making that track. She had to convince herself because if she messed up it would ruin this perfect song, because she had her own reasons. She wanted her #1 fan to listen to her music too. The loud music sounds with Haein's confidence and motivation. It amazed Hyunjae because he thought she was only influenced by shoegaze and post-rock. She seamlessly brings the track into her domain and showcases her individuality. He smiled and thought that Shin Haein, truly an intriguing artist. He can feel it, they're going to make a great song. He approached Haein, and this bastard offered her a beer by whispering into her ear. This kid's getting impudent over time. But Haein said yes to Hyunjae's offer because she'll finish the arrangement today itself. Hopefully they won't do anything weird. Meanwhile, we turn to Yo-eun, who is in his college's library building. He is confused about his assignment because he feels that his argument is not solid. He's dizzy, so he prefers not to do it to avoid the headache. And left the library. He felt her body a bit stiff, also thinking that this mid-April would be busy, preparing for the aptitude test and checking out some job fairs, not forgetting to ask Haein to grab drinks. But he also felt that she was busy and had to synchronize their schedule. He heard his phone ringing, so he immediately checked it. He looked shocked after seeing something on his phone. The day ended towards evening. Finally, the scene arrives at the station we've been waiting for. Haein is seen alone waiting there, while planning her collab song with Hyunjae. Suddenly, there was someone's voice calling her loudly. It turned out that Yo-eun ran quickly to her, confidently inviting Haein to hold a listening party for a new song of Long Afternoon. She's shocked that Yo-eun suddenly invited her to enjoy a romantic party. We all hope that Hyunjae is gay, and hope the author doesn't make this a love triangle or quadrilateral. They were silent for a moment after the invitation. She was confused about what they were going to do because they had never done a listening party before. Yo-eun explains it's where people gather to listen to a new song, like watching a movie and share their thoughts. Haein never knew such an event existed because she's never heard of it. It turns out that back in his high school, a friend asked him to go to a listening party, where the singer personally showed up. The singer shared her emotions while singing and explained how she came up with the lyrics, so this time he wanted to invite her to have their own music listening party. After seeing the post of Long Afternoon, who will be releasing a new song on April 28th, Haein felt strange seeing the post she wrote herself. She said it would be meaningless without Long Afternoon there, because the artist has to be there to talk about the song, right? That's true, but Yo-eun just want to have fun together, like some drinks with her. Haein smiled at his excuse, then teased him, so that's what this was all about, drinking with her. Yo-eun felt a little embarrassed and upset, because his intention was to be genuinely excited about Long Afternoon's new song, not just to be alone with her. But he was silent for a moment, though he won't deny he wants to be alone with her, and this is a good excuse. Hearing his honest answer makes Haein a little happy about Yo-eun's feelings. So she agrees and will check her schedule for that day. But when she checked the date, April 28th, it turned out that she already had an activity on that date, where she had a collab recording session. So she said the 28th might not be work because she will be at the studio recording. Yo-eun was a little disappointed, but he guessed there's no helping it. Haein insisted to check if she can reschedule it. But he doesn't want her to do that because he just suggested it impulsively because he got excited. Even though he said it like that, of course she couldn't bear it, because he making that puppy who missed their walk face makes it really hard to ignore. But there's no way around it because the schedule was already tough to coordinate with the band. But to make up for his disappointment, she invited him to have a drink some other day because they don't need a special reason to drink with each other, right? If they feel like it, then just do it maybe after midterms, when both of them are more relaxed. Yo-eun felt her sincerity and agreed to her invitation to drink some other day, until finally the sound of the next train is arriving echoed. Several days have passed, showing Yo-eun who was taking an exam at his college, until he finally finished. He was very tired and finally left the room, but he met up with his friends, inviting him to a party after the exam. But he refused because he had to work, until his friend praised him for being so diligent. But that's just an excuse, because today is the release day for Long Afternoon's new song. Even if he's not with Hae-in, he'll still savor the new song alone, and he can't miss out on that joy. He quickly left his friend, even though the song was released at 4 p.m. He'll hear it when he gets home from work. So he kept laughing impatiently to listen to it, until the train, on the way home, until after arriving at his apartment he broke down the door with a loud laugh, because it was finally time for him to release his stress with a masterpiece song. But suddenly his stomach rumbled loudly, because he hadn't eaten anything today, so he put it off until the food he ordered came to the door. He decided to take a shower first. The sound of the shower was heard. He took a shower but felt uncomfortable, because he felt empty of something, until Hae-in's face appeared in his mind. Even though today is full of good things, but he's confused, so why did he feel so lonely? The sound of the bell rang as he was lost in thought. He was confused why the food delivery kept ringing the bell, even though he wrote to leave the food at the door. So that made him very upset and forced to open the door, but instead he saw a beautiful woman in front of his apartment. He didn't expect Hae-in to come to see him. He was surprised to see Yoon in his underwear, making her face red because she came for the music party. He thought she couldn't come because of her schedule, but she wanted to attend so badly, and she also brought good drinks, making Yoon happy that this cute girl came to see him, inviting her to come inside. But Hae-in teased Yoon, asking if he usually stays home in just his underwear. He was so shocked that he didn't realize it, so he immediately ran to put on some clothes. She loved teasing him even though she knew he must have just finished showering. Yoon quickly put on pants. He was so embarrassed to show Hae-in such an embarrassing thing. Suddenly she calls out to him. She wants to borrow Yoon's clothes like last time, because she wanted to take a shower too before they drank, while taking off her jacket, making Yoon almost lose control looking at Hae-in's body. The sound of the shower started coming from the bathroom, showing Hae-in enjoying a shower in Yoon's apartment. He imagined something bad when he saw the bathroom. While preparing the place for their drink, he was very happy that Hae-in came to his place for this event. Since she last slept in his apartment, she left without saying a word. He asked, does this mean from now on she'll keep visiting like this without any notice? So from now on he has to make sure his apartment is clean and odorless. Suddenly, the door opens and someone calls his name. Hae-in opened the door slightly and asked Yoon to get her a towel. So he quickly grabbed her towel, running around out of focus, until he gave her the towel even though he wanted to peek inside. Hae-in thanked him and closed the door again, making him very nervous even though he just handed over a towel. So he had to calm down from his dirty thoughts by putting on a remix of Buddhist chants, a very good song to calm himself down from dirty thoughts, until Hae-in walked up to him, making his dirty thoughts reignite after seeing his oversized shirt on Hae-in's body. She said the shirts might slip off even with the slightest movement, so asked for other clothes like oversized shirts, or should she respect his preference and just stay like this? Yoon was so silent that he almost exploded from her teasing. Even though he wanted Hae-in to stay like that, she insisted on getting her another shirt. Finally, she changed her clothes. With a sports jersey, even if it's big, she can zip it up to make it fit. She finds this funny because it's so loose and says his shoulders are really broad. Yoon discussed her schedule because he thought she'd be working late into the night, so she explained to him what had happened. In the studio room, Hae-in's voice is heard singing loudly. She did that quickly, starting over and over again to get the best results. They finally finished recording and were about to do the final revision. Her bandmates were amazed by her speed when she usually keeps retaking until she's satisfied, thinking she's slacking off just because it's not her song. But they could only see the end result because she did it perfectly as usual. Absolutely amazing. Until she finally came out with a bang, said her part's done and asked for any directing needed, but he says it's perfect and invites them to have a party after this. Hae-in refuses quickly because she has something to do today. It surprised him that she had something at this hour. She quickly puts on her jacket and says she'll do the party at another time, quickly parting ways with her band members, and immediately went out, though they wanted to treat her to celebrate the release of her new song. So they concluded that she probably had a boyfriend. She told Yoon while eating and drinking. They could have finished earlier than scheduled because they always booked extra time. It makes him happy that all her work is done well. Hae-in pulls out an expensive whiskey, which startles Yoon. It was his turn yesterday, so now it's her turn to bring him a drink, inviting him to enjoy this night, starting with the cheers of their glasses. Yoon drank it quickly. It made her shocked yet happy that he was enjoying it. But she didn't want to get drunk that quickly. Yoon didn't think he would get drunk tonight. They were about to start the music listening party now. The new song was called Blue Smoke. They listened on their phones and started it simultaneously. They closed their eyes to sharpen their hearing. But when listening to this song, although it has been hundreds to thousands of times, sitting still and listening like this brings back memories of when she made this song. A part of her is preserved in this song. Just knowing someone out there is listening to it, it fills her heart. She wondered how Yoon was feeling while listening. She imagined that he would be very excited and say that Long Afternoon was amazingly genius, or maybe he'll turn out to be disappointed because he doesn't understand this new song. But either way it's fine, as long as he listens to her music. So she peeked a little at him, Yoon, who seemed to be enjoying himself, until he almost shed a tear, making her wonder why he was crying. She asked if he was okay, and asked him what he was thinking. He almost cried hearing a song that was so beautiful, even the lyrics really resonated with him. Explaining a part of the lyrics in the song, it hit him deeply, making her a little relieved to hear that. Yoon asked what she thought, but she explained it like it sounded like criticism by a professional. She was also confused about how to explain it, because when he asked him to organize a listening music party, she thought that it would be too cringeworthy to try, but now, she just wants to drink like there's no tomorrow. She wants to party recklessly, and her heart feels like it's about to burst. Time continued to pass until they finished listening to the song. He wondered if he was already drunk, or if he was intoxicated by the music. He's confused why he wants to hold and hug Haein so badly right now. Is this his true feelings, or just a side effect of whiskey and music? They had already drunk many bottles of alcohol tonight. The atmosphere was very exciting, and Haein started shouting, telling funny stories of her favorite bands, the Beatles, mimicking their expressions, making them both laugh out loud. Yoon was very happy to hear the Beatles story from her. Haein said she learned music and more from her uncle. Although the lyric was hard to understand at first, the more she heard it, the more it touched her heart. As a child, she always heard songs from people around her. That eventually inspired her to make a song that will be heard hundreds of years from now, even if aliens invade the Earth. Yoon was confused when the word alien made him laugh. She tells him that she actually is the ancestor of the aliens. Hearing that makes Haein look like a weirdo. Yoon asks if there's any music she's made because he's dying to hear it. Haein is confused about how to say it, until she fell silent for a moment. But she decides not to tell the truth and says she hasn't made any music yet, making him a little disappointed because he felt that the music Haein made would be very good. To make up for his disappointment, Haein makes him a special whiskey cocktail to change the subject. Yoon feels he's already had way too much tonight from the new song and the conversation. She asks him if he's sleepy yet. Yoon told her that he stayed up late yesterday studying for an exam, so he was a little sleepy. Haein looked at him with while planning something, until finally she quickly lay down on Yoon's lap for no reason, making him confused about what she did. Haein said she was just lying down to write her journal with an app called Letter to the Stars. She's going to write a few words about how she feels right now. Yoon asked what she was going to write today, making her think for a while, and he'll write that Yoon's thigh is perfect balance of soft as pillow, making him laugh. Therefore, she'll hug it like a pillow and sleep tonight. He also said then he guessed he'll have to hug her to sleep too. Haein suddenly looked in his direction. She said, right, not joking, with a seductive facial expression. Of course it made Yoon dare, and asked if Haein was afraid that he might be serious. She stifled a laugh and was silent for a moment, saying she's not scared and explaining that Yoon is drunk right now. She got up from his lap and asked him to sleep because she felt sleepy. But Yoon replies to her earlier statement that he's not drunk right now, he really wants to hug her tonight. Is Haein allowed him to hug her? She was silent when she heard that, and said if she says yes, will he have the courage to hug her? She opened his arms, challenging Yoon to try hugging her. She teased him and said she wouldn't stop him. Finally, he quickly hugged her, making her very surprised because this happened suddenly. They ended up falling because of the tight hug. Haein's face blushes red from embarrassment and didn't expect him to dare to hug her. It turns out that he's been holding back a lot. Of course he's going to hug her. He don't want to treat her carelessly because he don't want to. After Haein heard his explanation, she wasn't surprised anymore, and now says, all right then, she'll really let him to hold into each other tonight. They hugged for a long time, for a very long time without saying a word, making Haein confused, until the sound of Yoon snoring was heard. She didn't expect this guy to fall asleep while hugging her, but she understood because he stayed up late studying for an exam and had whiskey straight just now. So she lifted him into the bed because she was strong enough after working lifting things at the studio. Finally, Yoon slept in his bed. Haein still can't believe he hugged her so tightly just now, but she was annoyed that he suddenly fell asleep and ended up smacking Yoon's butt. She's going to take off her clothes and sleep too since Yoon let her before. She threw off her jacket and immediately hugged Yoon from behind. She smelled his newly fragrant body wash. as well as the smell of his clothes, and the whiskey they just drank. She felt crazy after smelling his body, squeezing Yoon's body hard because she couldn't say that she was long afternoon and couldn't say everything yet. While here she hid, watching his expression as he listened to her song. At times like this, she thought that it wasn't Yoon who lacks the courage to hold someone, but herself, the alien hiding her identity. She thought maybe she's the coward, while hugging Yoon and pressing her face against his back. The day passed and the morning dawned, until finally Yoon woke up from his sleep. He felt his head was very dizzy because he didn't know how much he drank last night. He also didn't realize why he was sleeping in bed, because he didn't remember anything. So he intended to continue sleeping because he was still dizzy, and thought Haein had returned home while hugging his blanket. But he felt something strange about the blanket, because it has a shape, so he's confused why is the blanket so firm. He banged on it and wondered why it felt soft and squishy too, until suddenly a head emerged from the blanket and said good morning to Yoon, making him scream out loud because he was shocked to see someone in his bed. Haein asked did he sleep well. She hopes it wasn't too cramped with her here. He's very confused by all of this, because he didn't expect that he would sleep in the same bed with Haein. He tried to remember and thought, had they clapped all night with her without realizing it? Haein took a shower after staying at Yoon's place. She dried her hair like it was her own home, while Yoon still couldn't believe that they had slept in the same bed last night. He was so drunk that he didn't remember anything and they probably did something they shouldn't have. Suddenly, Haein called out to him, who was deep in thought. She asks him today's schedule if he's busy. Yoon replied that he only had a part-time job and would only be doing chores at home. Haein praised him for being so diligent, and she decided to leave at 1 p.m. after she ate ramen. Yoon doesn't mind Haein staying here, but she teased him if he wanted to stay with her. That's because it seems like it would be inconvenient if Haein had to commute from her house and then come nearby here again. But even so, it looks like she decided to go home to rest and change her clothes. She said it's not like she's uncomfortable here and his place is closer to the studio than mine. If his place is closer to her work, he thought, then should he tell her to come over anytime to hang out? But Yoon canceled it, and he think Haein didn't have a reason to come here anymore. While he was eating, she called him. She asked if he's doing a workout. However, he doesn't do it intensely, but he often goes for morning runs and other light exercises. Haein said, "Oh, I see, as expected." Hearing this made him wonder why she was asking. It turns out that Haein felt in good shape when she hugged him last night. She said her shoulders were very wide, while Yoon was confused by what she said. He didn't realize that Haein had hugged him. She also told him about he asking for a hug and said I've been holding back a lot, while teasing him. Yoon was petrified at the thought. He thought that Haein was lying just to tease him, but she recounts that when he hugged her suddenly, she thought she wouldn't sleep tonight. But it turned out that someone fell asleep, so she just slept next to him. His face blushed at the memory, and he apologized for doing it while drunk. Haein forgives him and says she enjoyed it too. Hearing the word enjoyed, he was surprised, but she just realized that a hug is a necessary thing for humans. Since she hadn't felt a warm hug in a long time, there was no need for Yoon to feel guilty. He was silent and relieved by the incident. The day has passed, people were seen jogging leisurely. But suddenly a noise was heard from behind. It turned out that Yoon had a hot engine and was running as hard as he could. Since he's been studying lately, he thought his body must be in worse shape than before, so he has to maintain his stamina and body. Of course, it's not to impress Haein, but that's also one of the reasons after his body was praised. If Haein likes him, that would be really nice. So he gets hotter and intends to increase his exercise. The scene changes to the music studio. Haein is seen alone, with a tablet and pencil in her hand. She's apparently drawing a mascot who looks a bit like Yoon. Suddenly, she's startled by someone coming out of the blue. But he wonders why she's so shocked, and says, "Were you watching something dirty?" But Haein gave him the middle finger. It turns out he had a reservation at 3 p.m. He also told her that they had a drink with Hyunjin yesterday after she left. Apparently they told each other stories and have gotten closer, because Yeonjae paid for it all. He also relayed a question from Hyunjin to her. He asked if they were okay with a live clip for the new collab song. Simply put, it's an edited video of a live performance. If they do that, they can edit or direct it to hide her face while performing. She asked Haein if that wasn't a good enough concept for them, though Haein only intended to be involved in the music production and nothing more. But if she mustered up a little courage and creates something again and again, she'll be able to see Yoon's exclusive expressions, right? Now she's only thinking about him more than herself. So sweet. So she decides to think about it as long as her face isn't seen. She thinks she can. The scene switches back to Yoon, who is walking holding her sore hand because he had exercised hard all of a sudden. But he thought nothing was wasted today. He had started breakfast with Haein and had done a lot. He entered the workplace, but his boss wasn't there. He wondered if she had gone to buy something. He entered the staff room and finally put on his summer uniform. Yoan said that he's taking over now and will let the boss know when she comes. His friend said that the boss won't be coming because she's not feeling well. Yoan worried whether she was sick, but it turned out that she came down 5th of fever because she was suddenly shivering and ended up going to the hospital. He was worried so he might call her later. So he immediately told her to go home because she had been working from her shift, but her friend decided to stay, with her pretty face. One Shin Young, who was on a break from school, couldn't bear to let Yoan work hard alone, and she decided to help him. Here Yoon is shocked, readers are shocked, and hope the author makes this character a lesbian, so as not to disturb the vanilla path of Yoon and Haein, get out.
It seems that Shin Young is very eager to work, even though she has exceeded her shift. She works with a bright smile. Meanwhile, Yoan is restless. He calls the boss and asks how she's doing. The boss says it's nothing serious and she's just overworked. So Yoan is relieved to hear that she can still joke around. But she's worried because Yoan works alone. He explains that he's not alone at the cafe. Part-timer Shin Young still stays and helps out. Of course, the boss is angry to hear that she's working 2 shifts in a row. But Yeon explains that as long as she gets paid extra, she doesn't mind. The boss pauses in thought and allows it as long as she doesn't overwork. Yeon is relieved that her boss isn't seriously ill. Shin Young asks him what the boss said. She said that she'll pay her extra, and she also said not to overdo it. Yeon reminds her that it will get harder as the night goes on because it will be crowded, but her joy in working makes her stronger. Yeon is relieved that she has high energy and working with her won't be awkward. He asked permission to throw the trash out the back, but Shin Young called him. She heard from her boss that Yeon is a college student, which means he's older than her. So feel free to drop the honorifics because she's 23. But Yeon felt a little uncomfortable for that and asked Shin Young to watch the counter for a bit and continue working. Yeon left the building, taking out the trash. He thought she was very sociable even though it was only their first day of meeting. It reminded him of his old self, not worrying about how long he knew someone or how much time they spent together. But at some point, when did he start calculating the longevity of relationships and adjusting his distance? He re-entered the building, but Shin Young suddenly shouted that they had a problem, which startled him. She said that they just got an order for 15 drinks and sandwiches and wanted him to help her. Yeon was shocked that someone would order 15 sandwiches at this hour, so they shared the hard work. While Yeon lost in thought, why do complicated orders always come in at the worst times? He stole a glance at Shin Young and felt grateful that she stayed and helped him. Even though she's only been working for 2 months, she's pretty skilled and reliable. But Shin Young yelled back that their coffee machine was broken, so Yeon ran to quickly fix it. Finally, their work is almost done. Yeon is exhausted after all the work today. Shin Young told to go home, but she couldn't bear to leave him alone. He explained it jokingly that it is okay, which finally made her go home cheerfully. Yeon hoped she got home safely, and she finally left him alone. It was just the closing work, so he felt he could finish it alone. But suddenly he fell silent, thinking deeply again. She suddenly remembered Haein's face and wondered how old she was because he never asked, which made him curious. Once at the train station, Yeon immediately asked Haein, but she replied that she was 39 years old. Yeon was very surprised to hear that, making them look awkward. Yeon suddenly moved away while thinking, is Haein widowed? Haein shouts that, of course it's a lie. She can't believe that Yeon believes she's 39 looking at her face. So he asks how old she is. Is it a secret? Haein doesn't mind, but why is he suddenly curious about her age? Does he think she's an old woman hiding behind makeup? And does it really matter if you don't know someone's age? Hearing the question made him pause, thinking that of course it didn't matter. He regretted having asked something that didn't matter. Seeing his sad face made her feel guilty because she was too blunt, so she decided to tell him on one condition. He had to call her Haein SSI. Seeing her beautiful face made Yeon speechless. He asked, shouldn't it make her feel awkward? Maybe other people think so, but she likes it because it makes her feel respected as an adult, but not too much like a customer. Yeo-eun was silent and concluded that Hae-in likes role-playing like that. She only explained when he says Hae-in sigh in his voice. It makes her cringe a little, but still, she likes it. Hearing that made Yeo-eun blushed, so he would call her that, and it wasn't a difficult thing. He went back to asking her age if they were the same age. Hae-in turns out to be only 21 years old, making Yeo-eun very shocked because he's 25. He yells, "No way!" because Hae-in is already working. Even if someone graduated from college, they should be 22. Hae-in didn't go to college, and she got a job once she became an adult. She doesn't mind showing her ID to him. Yeo-eun keeps asking because he still doesn't believe about Hae-in's age. Like how she's good at mixing drinks, but she says that she only learned from her uncle. The sound of the train arriving echoes through the station. Anyway, they just made a promise, so the way they address each other can't change from now on. She approached Yeo-eun and teased him, calling him Yeonwoo Oppa, though she spoke very mature and seemed experienced, so he thought she was older. But it turns out she's a precocious little fox, a little girl that Yeo-eun is crazy about. A few days later at the cafe, Boss looks tired after resting due to illness, so her body aches. Yeo-eun suggested resting again, but the boss didn't want to, because she was afraid she would lose a lot of money, because she thinks not having money is scarier than death. She asked Shin-young if she was having a hard time. They feel she's so bright and good at handling customers because of her great personality, but she still struggles because she hasn't memorized all the recipes. Boss thanks to Yeo-eun because he's the only part-timer who can be trusted with the shop, so she can rest easy. Hearing the sudden praise made him embarrassed. She was really grateful to have him here. She asked if he was busy on his day off, so she invited him to eat beef together, but when he asked why beef all of a sudden, she said it was for gratitude. But Yeo-eun prefers to be given cash compensation. Boss pleaded with him because she really just wanted to hang out and wanted to eat meat. Yeo-eun suggests her to grill some at home. She yells louder because she doesn't want to grilling meat. Cologne is too depressing. It's not like she's living a luxurious life to go through all that hassle. So she whined to eat meat together. Yeo-eun had no other choice, so Yeo-eun was about to say that he would come, but suddenly the boss looked the other way, making Yeo-eun confused as her expression changed. She hurried away and asked him to watch the counter for a second. Someone turned out to be at the cafe, listening to music. It turns out to be Hyun-jae. He listens to Hae-in's mix because it doesn't sound too bad. It's rough, but each instrument has its own unique touch. So he's confused about whether to choose his studio's mix or Hae-in's. But suddenly he heard the sound of a photo from behind. Someone was taking a picture of him. He was surprised because there was a sneaky photographer, but he didn't expect it to be in a cafe, though if she wanted, she could ask him for a photo together. This made him uncomfortable, so he decided to leave because he didn't want to make a scene in the cafe. But the boss suddenly reprimanded the photographer and said not allowed to secretly take pictures of other customers. Hyun-jae didn't expect anyone to defend him. The person said that he was not just any customer, but a famous person. But she still didn't allow it because anyone who entered the cafe was her customer. So she defended herself, saying that she was a customer too. But she didn't buy anything, which made the boss angry. It's usually okay for people not to order, but she doesn't like people bothering others. So she kicked her out if there was no need for her to be here. The photographer did not accept this treatment and threatened to give her a 1-star review on social media apps to destroy the cafe. Boss doesn't care about it and is relieved after she leaves. Hyun-jae comes up to her and apologizes for all the commotion. Boss acts cool and says it was nothing. She suddenly becomes very pretty and says to keep coming here. I can already see you guys shipping them, LOL. Even the boss knows he likes cappuccinos, which surprised him. He said that of all the places, this is the best. Finally, he went to say goodbye and left the cafe. Boss felt that he must be upset at the thought of how hard it would be to become a famous person. Yeo-eun, who saw the whole incident, praised the boss that she was very cool. Cool my ass, said her. She didn't want him to learn that from her because it stressed her out, and she again asked him if they were going to eat meat. Yeo-eun smiled at that, so he decided to accompany her to eat meat together. On the day of the appointment, Yo-eun walked to the place her boss gave her to eat meat. While waiting, he looked at his cell phone and saw that they're starting summer intern recruitment. But no one he knows has applied yet, so he will wait longer. He was confused why he is doing this when he's supposed to be out relaxing. It's not even urgent. He feels he should stop stressing because his job search is going according to plan. As long as he stays on track, the last stop will have a result. So he decided to listen to Long Afternoon to relieve his stress. But after opening Spotify, he was shocked because he saw Long Afternoon's new album cover. Suddenly, the boss greeted him from behind. Yeowon was surprised to see the boss because she came together with Shin Young with their pretty clothes. He didn't know she was coming too, but the boss invited her because she had a really rough time that day too and deserved some beef. Shin Young greets him with a coquettish face, making Yeowon look confused at her face, and they shouted to start their meat party. Because tonight's goal was to eat a whole cow since it's been a while. Suddenly, Shin Young put her arm around Yeowon. I don't know why this bitch is suddenly so familiar. She teased him and quickly walked over because she was impatient to eat meat. Yeowon felt uncomfortable, but I wonder why he didn't reject her. He was confused. Why do he feel this eerie sensation? Maybe he feels like he's having an affair now, even though he's not even dating yet. Meanwhile, Hai-in is in the music studio, busy making a song for the Long Afternoon. She's mumbling while singing, but she feels strange, because it's all not going well and she doesn't know where the wrong part is. Or maybe she's hungry, so she has to go out for food. They finally started the meat eating in restaurant, with large and fresh meat, so the boss looks very happy when eating juicy meat, especially in a tired state. Yeowon and Shin Young ate the meat with great relish. But the boss felt like something was missing, so she ended up ordering a bottle of soju. Yeowon warned her not to get drunk in a place like this. He told Yeowon to take it easy. There's even an old saying, fight poison with poison and alcohol with alcohol. He's worried about her because there's no one to take care of her, but the boss relies on Yeowon when she's drunk, which makes him angry. Seeing this makes Shin Young smile with a strange face. Says to the two of them that they're very close. She asked if they knew each other. The boss replied that they only worked for a long time. Sometimes they also spend time hanging out like this because they both live alone. So Shin Young deduced that and asked, you two were kind of seeing each other? Which made Yeowon spit out his drink in shock at the question. Yeowon argued against it and said that they were just eating together and it didn't mean they were dating. But Oh Ha-ju doesn't argue and complicates things by saying that she once tried to flirt with Yeoyun. She said that Yeoyun was played hard to get and so annoying, making him angry and said, stop making stuff up. Yeowon felt a little awkward about what just happened, so Shin Young continued to ask, do you live alone, Appa? I guess you don't have a girlfriend then, right? This bitch asked with a coquettish face. Of course Yeowon says she doesn't have a girlfriend because they haven't confessed their feelings. But her boss teased him again, but you have someone you're kind of seeing, right? Shin Young was so excited to hear that. With a glowing face, I don't know if she's actually interested in Yeowon or not. So she inferred whether Yeowon liked Chuyeon from the morning shift, even though he never met anyone from the morning shift. So Yeowon has to explain that he's just close to someone, but not a girlfriend, and they don't even have each other numbers. Reality hits hard because he hasn't done any of that, but in his heart, he wants more. Even if others asked what kind of relationship they had, while imagining Hai-in, he would probably answer. He'd say she's someone he wants to keep talking to. Shin Young glanced a little at Yeoyun's face, which looked a little glum. So she offered him a drink since his glass was empty. Those who were a little drunk still wanted to continue drinking until the next round. Yeowon accepted her offer and thanked her. But the boss cried because no one noticed that her glass was also empty, which made them panic. They shouted and decided to drink to the last drop with vigor, except for Yeoun. Back to the music studio, the strumming of the guitar can be heard from Hai-in, who plays it while lying down. But she felt that what she was playing wasn't right, and felt she should change the composing she made. Her uncle came in and wanted to ask her what she wanted to eat for tonight, but he was surprised to see Hai-in lying on the floor. Did you do any performance practice? Of course not. because she wasn't even doing a live performance. She was just stuck while composing and ended up lying here. That's unusual because she usually writes songs so easily and writes smoothly before. Yeah, it happens sometimes and she can't always do things the same way. And this time, for some reason, she really wanted to take her time and write a proper song with a serious face. Even though it would take a long time, her uncle was very proud and smiling to hear that. So he took her out to eat to clear her head. Meanwhile, he would leave the studio to his friend who was practicing to look after it for a while. Because perhaps after eating out, she might even get some song ideas. So they decided on that and quickly left because they were hungry. It's very late night. You can see Oh Ha-ju singing about her loneliness because she's drunk too much. Yeo-eun had accompanied her to hang out, but the boss said she would still lonely when returned home alone. She regrets that she's divorced, but he calms her down because she always goes back to that. So the boss invites them to go to a whiskey bar for round 2 and treats them. But they both turned it down and decided to stop here for the night, which disappointed the boss because she had intended to buy them expensive drinks. So she'll go there herself for the night, which makes Yeo-eun worry about her. She calmed him down by saying that she was close to the bar owner. She's still very excited and they end up parting ways, making Yeo-eun worry that she's going to collapse again since she's just recovered from her illness. Shin-young didn't waste this opportunity and started smiling slyly. She's suddenly linking Yeo-eun's arm again, tightly, and asked where should we go, which made him confused about the meaning of the question. There's a draft beef place nearby she goes to often, so she invited him to have a drink there, just the two of them. Even though the boss invited her earlier and she said she was full earlier. Of course she refused because she actually wanted to talk to him more, so let's have a light drink before going home. Yeo-eun started to feel uncomfortable with her familiar behavior, so he rejected her by saying he was a little tired. Shin-young could only be silent hearing his response. So she concluded that surely Yeo-eun wanted to meet the person who was close to him, right? Even if he is, it's just casual dating. It's not like he's confessed, and he's not even in a relationship. If he takes it too seriously, he'll be the only one who gets hurt. That person could just be playing around, don't you think? Yeo-eun is disgusted with her because she talks a lot and demonizes Ha-yin. He lets go of Shin-young's arm. She has a point, but even if Ha-yin is just playing around with him. Yeo-eun said he wants to be serious. He said firmly and with a serious face, leaving Shin-young speechless. When he likes someone, he prefers to be straightforward even if he ends up heartbroken and crying alone later. Hearing his words, she was amazed because she rarely met men like this. To make her even wetter, she blushed and smiled at him. He held Yeo-eun's arm again and said, "You're seriously good guy, Appa." Don't feel too bad about it. She just wanted to be close friends with him. So, let's drink together when the boss is around next time. He agreed, but he wondered why she always kept her arms around him and said that it was just one of her habits. Yeo-eun was very tired of dealing with her, who had a very cheerful personality, especially when she was drunk. But while he was tired, something suddenly shocked him. He saw Ha-yin being embraced by an unknown man and crossed paths with him while crossing the street. Ha-yin is also surprised to see Yeo-eun with a woman. No, Yeo-eun wants to grab her because he can't believe this. Ha-yin can only remain silent and pretend not to know each other. Until finally they were silent until they crossed the street and were not seen again. What the... That was Ha-yin just now, wasn't it? Then the person who had his hand on Ha-yin's shoulder? A boyfriend? No way! Ha-yin thought the same with him. The person who was just linking arms with Yeo-eun? A girlfriend? No! Why? A huge wave crashed very hard. Yeo-eun was carried away by the wave and screamed. He almost drowned and screamed for help. He screamed for anyone to help him because he couldn't swim. He was carried away by the swirling current, like the swirling of a drink that he stirred endlessly. He kept stirring the drink for a very long time, because he was still devastated from the last time he saw Ha-yin being embraced by a man. Boss asks for the drinks that were ordered, but Yeowon still hasn't finished because he stirred too long. Boss scolds him for taking too long to make the drink order, so she ends up making the order herself and asks him to get some fresh air out. If he's still zoning out when he comes back, Boss Falcon puching him in the filtrum, so he apologizes. Yeowon went out of the cafe while carrying trash. He's confused about what's wrong with him today because he hasn't written the assignment and has been spacing out too much. He suddenly thought back to Hyein with that guy and imagined if they were being that affectionate with each other. He thought they must be dating. His gaze became cold at the thought. He was very upset that she told him she didn't have anyone. He felt hurt. Was he the only one serious again? He kicked the garbage hard because of the emotion he felt, making the trash spill out, so he had to clean up the trash again. This is why it's frustrating people's feelings. He was fine just being able to talk to her, but before he knew it, he started wanting to have her all to himself. Finally, Yeowon continued his night shift with a restless heart. The scene changes to Hyein, who is in the music studio listening to remixes. She's spacing out with an annoyed look on her face. Hyunjae asks how it went. Hyein just answers yes and says that it's nice. He continued that he also made a test version. He highlighted the long afternoon part more. But Hyein said whatever and just do what he liked because Hyunjae is good at this even without her input. Hearing this, he felt something was wrong. So he sat down and reprimanded him. They can't do it like this, and no matter how she feels, she has to be professional. Because in their project, there are many other staff whose efforts will be wasted if they both slack off. So he hopes that Hyein can be serious until the end give her best. After hearing that, she realized that there was a point. She apologizes for doing it half-heartedly. Hyunjae smiles in relief that Hyein realized her mistake. He said that he was just doing his job as a producer. And asked more closely, did something bad happen? Because her face has looked off all day. Hyein replies it's just nothing. She just keeps thinking about how Yeowon betrayed her by taking another woman. Because of that recollection, she gets so upset that it makes her face want to cry. And screamed suddenly because it was so frustrating. She really doesn't understand people while yelling at Hyunjae. Seeing him for the first time like this made him confused and asked what she meant. She said people aren't consistent. They beg to go on walks like a puppy in front of you and then act completely different behind your back. She didn't expect that Yeowon, who seemed like a nice guy, was deceiving her from behind. She didn't understand why she was so upset like that, but she couldn't help it. Hyunjae smiled at her. He advises Hyein not to dive too deep in when she meets people. Understanding someone's heart is like looking at the riverbed from above the water. Even if you think you know how deep it is, you can't be sure. And if you jump in, expecting it to be deep, but it turns out shallow, you're the only one who gets hurt. So trust appropriately and meet people with low expectations. If your expectations are too high, you'll only burden the other person. His words have a point. Even if she gets her hopes up, people will never act the way she expects them to. And because that scares her, she hides behind her character, Wookin. All this time that she spent with Yeowon, just to have a shallow connection like that? She still can't believe that with that smile of his, he turned out to be a traitor. So that makes her inner conflict because it's so annoying. She feels so angry, words she wants to scream are boiling up inside her. And yet, she still wants to see that stupid face of Yeowon again. Finally arrived at the train station. They tried to find each other. Until finally Yeowon saw Hyein standing right in the train queue. She wasn't sitting like usual. It must be because she wanted to avoid. She doesn't mind not talking to him anymore because she has a boyfriend. Yeowon thought like that, so she got annoyed by herself seeing him. Fine then. He's not going to pathetically cling on and will leave her, and won't even run into each other anymore. But he approached her quickly and ran into her, inviting her to talk a sap. Hyein is indifferent and says there's nothing she wants to talk about. Yeowon immediately asks her if she has a boyfriend. She's confused because she clearly told him that she doesn't have a boyfriend, but he clearly saw her walking arm in arm with a guy last time. And how could it be that he wasn't a boyfriend? Haein didn't realize she was walking arm in arm, and the only one who acted like that was her uncle. Yeowon made an incredulous face because how could her uncle look so young? Is she seriously telling him such an obvious lie? Do you think I'm stupid? Haein is annoyed with Yeowon's attitude, so she retaliates against him for saying he doesn't have a girlfriend, but she also clearly saw him walking arm in arm with a girl the other day. Yeowon clearly remembers that Shin Young also walked arm in arm with him that day, so he told her that she was just a co-worker. Haein can't believe that Yeowon is so close with his co-worker and just walks arm in arm with any girl he knows. They argue and explain to each other. But I'm so proud of you authors for clearing up this misunderstanding with just one chapter. This debate is futile because they don't listen to each other, and it's just a waste of time. Yeoun asked if this was really what she thought it was. Was all the time they spent together a waste of time? The sound of the train arriving was heard in the middle of their argument. She hesitated, while saying that's not what she meant. So Yeowon yells out loudly, holding on to Haein to get her to waste tonight on him. Because he'll prove to her he's being real, he promises to prove it. Haein is shocked at Yeowon and in her heart. She hopes that they don't betray each other. Oh Ha-ju was at the convenience store. In front of the drink machine, she was thinking, which beer to buy that would satisfy her tonight? Because beer will be her companion watching the new romance drama starring Kim Yoon. She picked up a can of beer, but she suddenly fell silent. Because she remembered that she drank yesterday, she realized that she shouldn't drink beer every day. Of course, it's not good for her body, and she feels like she's gaining weight. She walked out and felt that getting older is depressing, even if she has money she can't eat what she wants. But suddenly someone called out to her. She saw Yeoyun in the distance with a girl. They ran so hard that they looked exhausted. Boss is confused why he came to her and thinks that he missed the last train and came back. Yeoyun just wanted to check something. He introduces Haein to Oh-ha-ju, the owner of the cafe where he works part-time. Haein bows her head and greets her. Oh-ha-ju is surprised that Yeowon brought a girl to her, and she guesses that she is the person Yeowon said he met on the last train. Not the style she expected, but of course she's pretty and she can see why Yeowon would be interested. He immediately confirmed to the boss about their office dinner. The boss agrees to the statement and explains they had dinner together with Shin Young. Yeowon also wants to confirm her relationship with Shin Young. Haein glares at him from behind. He asks firmly that their relationship is only co-worker. Boss, who was confused, understands what this is about and she thinks she gets the gist. She explained their relationship in detail. Even though the two of them meet every day, but the only time he really talks to her is for about 10 minutes during shift handovers. Haein is relieved, but she feels bad about the whole incident. Boss emphasizes her statement that Yeoun has absolutely no relationship with Shin Young at all. Even so, Haein still doesn't accept why the girl is linking arms with Yeoun, so the boss had to find the right reason and say it very carefully so that she wouldn't be blamed. She's just so friendly and she always tries to link arms with her too. Even they told her not to, but they think it's just a habit for her. Haein and Yeowon stare at each other. He hopes that he can understand about this misunderstanding. Haein looks at him coldly, but even so, she tried to trust Yeowon thanks to the words of the boss, so he can smile with relief now. Oh-ha-ju feels awkward in the middle of this couple, so she offered them a ride. Since it's too late, buses and subways have stopped running. Yeoun wanted to accept, but Haein refused, because she wanted to take him somewhere. This time it was her turn to prove it too. Yeoun just froze because she was so pretty. Haein apologized for troubling the boss. He quickly pulled Yeoun away until they finally went their separate ways. Oh-ha-ju is speechless after all this. She can't take it anymore with all this loneliness. So she goes back to the convenience store and buys a can of beer. It was getting late. In the silence of the night, somewhere there was still the sound of noisy gaming. Uncle was playing the game and he died, feeling this game is too hard and he can't take this anymore. He heard the doorbell in the middle of the night. As soon as he opened the door, he saw Hae-in with a man he had never met. She asked the uncle, "I'm your niece, right?" The question was quite strange, and he wondered if Hae-in had cut ties with him, so he asked why. Hae-in reported that this person keeps asking if you're my boyfriend. Uncle felt very awkward. Was there even a reason to misunderstand that? He's proud that he thinks he looks so young. But Hae-in mocked him that he looked more like an old sugar daddy. Yo-won looked at Hae-in from behind. Recalling the two of them yesterday, compares it to the familiarity he sees before his own eyes today, so that he could understand, and began to smile with relief. He blushed because of this silly misunderstanding. Uncle looked at Yo-won and asked who he was and why would he even jump to that conclusion. With all these things, of course, Uncle concludes and asks, "Are you Hae-in's boyfriend?" Yo-won with his stupid face can only say he was just curious for some reason. Hae-in hits Uncle for talking weird stuff and tells him to go inside and sleep since their business is done. But he asks how they're going to get home. They decide to just take a taxi or walk. It's too late, so it might be quite dangerous. Uncle paused and thought for a moment and told them to wait here for a while, because he'll drive them both home. But he doesn't have a car, so he'll just have to borrow it from a neighbor. He immediately went and looked for it, asking them to just relax. Hae-in apologizes because he's just really persistent. Then the two of them just fell silent after their previous fight. Yo-eun didn't know what to say because he felt pathetic, acted as if he was Hae-in's boyfriend. But in the middle of his thoughts, Hae-in called out to him and said the night air is still chilly, isn't it? Yo-eun said, "Yeah, well, it's still spring." So Hae-in tried to get him to let's make up. Make up here means reconcile, not what your dirty minds are telling you, Loel. She extends her hand to Yo-won because she wants them to go back to talking about fun things like before. And invites him inside because it's warm and no one else is there. She extended her hand to him as a sign that they would reconcile. Yo-won was confused by what she was doing. Hae-in asks, "What are you doing? Not gonna hold my hand? Aren't we gonna make up?" He, with his stupid face, just realized that Hae-in just wanted to shake hands. He apologizes. He feels himself being led by Hae-in because of this, even though he should have taken the lead on this, fixing their relationship in a good way. Hae-in also apologizes for doubting him too. But by the way, Hae-in feels his hands are bigger than they look. She also thinks that bigger than her hands, Hae-in must like big fingers. He puts his hand against her and it turns out that Hae-in's hands are so tiny. Yo-won doubts that with her small hands, how can she play the guitar? Can she stretch from C to C? He thinks playing guitar is like piano, but guitar is structured differently so she can play an octave without breaking her fingers. She brags about her ability and will show her playing to Yo-won later. Hae-in is happy to see them chatting happily like before. She immediately invited him inside because she was impatient, inviting him to sit and talk like usual until her uncle arrived. Yo-won said yes as he was mesmerized by her beauty. Finally, they walked in while chatting about her uncle, who is also the owner of the studio she goes to. Finally, they went inside. There was also a bed and a beanbag, but I told you that they won't clap like your dirty brain thinks. Hae-in asked Yo-won to go ahead and relax on the beanbag. She'll see if there's anything to drink. Yo-won looked around. Lots of instruments and band posters because her uncle used to be in a band. He sat on the beanbag, looking at the PS5 in the room and envying it because he always wanted one. Now that he thought about it, Hae-in talked about her uncle a lot, so she must have come here often too, right? He was curious, what was she like as a kid, and wanted to see her old photos. He imagined she was probably really pretty even back then, and he bet she was super popular too. Until finally Hae-in came and brought a bottle of canned drink. He thanked him and Hae-in suddenly sat down next to him. Yo-won was surprised why she started sitting so close to him, but she said there's no other choice, there's only one beanbag. So Yo-won relented and he decided to sit somewhere else. But as soon as he wanted to move, Hae-in told him to stay still, because she wants leaning on each other's shoulders is more comfortable, and this beanbag is old, so the cushioning isn't great. Hearing this, of course, Yo-eun as a man had to understand the code. As soon as he sat back down, their bodies touched because they were leaning on each other. They sat comfortably with that. However, once again, Yo-eun thinks that it felt like he's the one being led. He's the reason they ended up here, this late night, so he should take responsibility and do something. Not just break the awkwardness, but also bring them a little closer. Hae-in is confused why he's staring at her face for so long. He said she must be really close with her uncle. From what he saw earlier, they seemed like friends. Yeah, well, we are pretty close. He took care of me when I was little. She said her only brother was too busy studying, and her parents both worked, so she was alone a lot, and her uncle always visited and played guitar for her. He was really handsome back then, but now he's just an old man. Yehuyeon was jealous of their intimacy, so he suddenly called Hae-in's name like how her uncle called her. He feels like her uncle called her so warmly. Hae-in was confused by that and thought it was normal, right? Yeon wants to call her name like that too, since they're close, so it should be fine, right? But she's not sure. She actually prefers the way it is now, making Yeon upset that he doesn't like it. He asks why he has to call her formally since he wants to say her name too. Hae-in thinks what's with him and why all of a sudden. Why is he whining like a puppy? That's unnecessarily cute, so she has no other choice but to allow it, but only 10 times. Yeon was very happy to hear that, so he spent the opportunity 10 times to call his name. Making Hae-in smile in surprise at that and ask, "What are you doing?" and why all 10 at once. Yeon was confused because he shouldn't have done it all at once, so he asked, "Did you not like it?" But it's not like that she didn't like it, but it's just kinda embarrassing. She said then, "It's her turn now, right?" She replied by saying his name familiarly 10 times, making Yeon realize how embarrassing it was to hear that. He's upset. Why is she mimicking him? And she just wanted to say it too. "Or do you not like it?" with a teasing tone. Suddenly seeing this made his face red and immediately hid his face. He was confused why his heart was racing. It's just his name being called. So why am I getting excited? Hae-in was very happy to tease him this time. It made her smile because she was relieved that they had made up, but suddenly she remembered Yoonjae's words. He advised her not to get too deep into relationships with other people, because it can hurt ourselves, because having too high expectations will only distort how we see them. She doesn't want to get hurt again by trusting the wrong person because she has trauma. But just for this time, for tonight, she feels like diving in without hesitation, wanting to deepen the relationship with the person who is beside her. So she decided to tell him something, telling the story of her past, that she've been betrayed before. Yeon was surprised to hear her try to open up. Hae-in sets her heart to try to tell a painful incident from her school days to Yeon. Hae-in started remembering her school days where she was playing the guitar in the music room. Her friend asked her to sing something because they were trying to record it. But she doesn't want to and is embarrassed, but her friend still forces her to upload this video to her TikTok because it hasn't been updated for a long time. They asked her to sing a song that people like, not some weird foreign song only she knows. But she was cranky because she didn't know what to play then. She tried to think of a song people might know, and will eventually sing it. She started the intro with a guitar strum. She sang very melodiously in the afternoon light, which made her beautiful. Her friends looked mesmerized to hear her, making Hae-in sing with all her heart. She remembers this with a gloomy face. Yeon asked her, did she say she was betrayed? So Hae-in started to tell what she remembered just now, about her close friends she got close with from at the beginning. She wants to tell the story, but she's having trouble to getting started. Yeon was speechless seeing Hae-in's uncharacteristic face. Seeing her like that, he tried to calm her down, asking her not to tell if she didn't want to, but if she wants to, he'll be there to listen to her. Hearing that made Hae-sun calm down. At the same time, she was happy, so she continued her story slowly. At first, they were really kind and they knew that she studied music. So even if no one was around her, she believed at least they truly supported her dreams. All of them kept company with her and listened to her songs. But in the end, it turned out that they were just pretending to be happy. They were in the classroom laughing loudly, talking about something. Hae-in was curious what they were talking about. So when she heard their conversation, she was really surprised. They were laughing while typing something on their cell phones, typing curses about Hae-in. In front of her, they acted like friends, but behind her back, they mocked her by using fake accounts who had always insulted her for a long time, looked down on her, and even said she'll probably end up stripping and dancing later. They called her a failure, and it made her very feel betrayed. Yewon listened to her story as a good listener. So sometimes those persons who say they're her friends now, she wondered if they often secretly laughed at her, so that she lost trust in others. Yeon feels that this is quite traumatizing for Hae-in, so he tries to calm her down and thank her. He tries to hold Hae-in's hand. He looks at her and thanks her for having the courage to tell him. He's grateful that since they met, he's had so much fun, and he's got a friend to talk to for a long afternoon. And what he just told her is genuinely what he feels about her. Hae-in was silent at his words, then tried to remember Yeon in her mind. The kindnesses he had done from the time she first saw him, when he's angry, when he's crying, and until now. She saw all kinds of expressions from Yeon, and with that face there was no way she was a hypocrite like her schoolmates. That made her smile happily at that, until she laughed again because she knew Yeon couldn't be lying because it's all over his face. But Yeon doesn't know what's wrong with his face. Thanks to his face, she always thought, this person could never get away with lying. Even though he thought he had a poker face. So Hoon teased him about it being impossible, but Yeon persisted. Finally, Hoon gives him a test if he really is poker face. She immediately linking their arms so that their faces are very close. And she'll guess what Yeon is feeling right now, just by looking at his face. Yeon tries to stay calm, but Hae-in tightened her grip. So he was sweating because this feels so dangerous. He felt his arm touch Hae-in's big chest. He couldn't hold on anymore, but Hae-in held on him. Hae-in didn't let Yeon go because she loved teasing him, until she finally looked at Yeon's pants. She was confused because something was sticking out, until finally she realized her actions had made his little Johnny awake. She was shocked and immediately got up to check on her uncle who might have arrived. Yeon was confused as to why Hae-in suddenly left, and still, just now, one thing became clear. That Yeon is truly an honest person who can't hide his feelings. But Yeon didn't understand what she was talking about. He tried to think about what she meant, until he finally realized his lust just now. He immediately looked at his little Johnny, that he had woken up and rebelled in his pants. It was very visible because Yeon was wearing loose pants and was very embarrassed that Hae-in had seen it. Hae-in, who was waiting outside, was shocked that they were just linking arms, and yet it reacted like that. That's impressive, which means Yeon's size is quite larger than average. They finally headed home by car. Yeon was silent all the way. Likewise, Hae-in is still blushing because of her own actions. So Uncle asked if they're still fighting. He told her about the car he borrowed. He's also planning to borrow this car for the Rockfest. Uncle calls Yeon and asks if he has any plans for this summer. He invites him to the rock festival together since he has 3 tickets. Hae-in explains what a rock festival is. Musicians from different countries gather and perform for 3 days, and they can camp and have fun. She's planning to go because her uncle is working there as a staff member, and asked Yeon to let him know anytime if he wanted to join. Feels excited he's going to play his favorite song in the car, but he argued with Hae-in about a good song. Yeon thought this summer might have a little free time since he has to go job hunting. But in his little heart, he looked at Hae-in, wishing he could go to this summer's rock festival and enjoy the music and camp with just her. The next day, Yeon arrived at the cafe. He greeted his boss after last night's incident, and she greeted him back and asked if he got home safely yesterday. It seemed that the boss had told Shin Young about last night's incident because they both looked at Yeowon with strange expressions. He felt a little embarrassed because this felt like it was going to be a hassle. Yeowon immediately went to the staff room and changed his clothes. When he returned, his boss gave him a glass of drink. It was a new recipe that had just come out, and she wanted Yeowon to give his opinion. She also mentioned last night's incident and what happened after they met her last night. She thought she had the right to hear about it because she had helped him. Yeowon replied that they had just made up normally, and that was it. Shin Young overheard their conversation and was relieved that their relationship had returned to normal. Yeowon was surprised because he thought she had already left, but she wanted to hear his story too. He was annoyed that there was nothing he wanted to tell her, but Shin Young had already heard it from her boss, so she laughed. He advised her to stop linking arms with just anyone from now on because people might get the wrong idea. Shin Young was silent when she heard that because it hurt her feelings, so she left immediately after hearing that. But she suddenly remembered something. She had taken an order before her shift ended and hadn't processed it yet. It was as if she was upset and wanted to retaliate against Yeowon's offensive words, so she immediately went home. Yeowon was upset that why she had only told him about it now, so he quickly prepared the order. He also gave some cookies as a service threat because it took too long. He was grateful that they didn't complain to him. The customer gave the drink to Arun, a name that was very familiar to Yeowon, so he immediately looked at the person. He was surprised because his guess was correct. The person named Arun immediately left the cafe, a very beautiful person from Yeowon's past. He was surprised why she had to reappear in his life now. Seeing Yeowon shocked made the boss worried. Yeowon explained that he had only seen someone he knew. The boss was relieved because she thought something serious had happened, and immediately left Yeowon to continue working. He thought about it, whether it was Arun or not didn't matter because he had already moved on. It was just a familiar name that caught his attention for a moment and nothing more. Just old memories kicking in, making him turn his head instinctively. That person meant nothing to him now, really. In the middle of his daydreaming, a new customer suddenly came in to place an order. A few days later, the scene shifts to the subway. It shows Yeowon, who is exhausted, sitting there. He has to go to the night market tonight because he needs to restock and buy some food. He is so sleepy that he doesn't even want to think about it. Maybe it's because work has been busy lately and for some reason he feels exhausted. He dreams about that person again. He asked why she ran away from the freshman welcome party because everyone was looking for her. She just doesn't like noisy places. Pointless small talk is annoying too. However, Yeowon advised her to keep coming, otherwise she'll always be alone. She glanced at Yeowon, is that so? Then, she asked Yeowon to stay by her side if he didn't want to see her alone. Yeowon just listened silently. He looked at the beautiful Aryun who was smoking beside him. The aroma of the cigarette was very tempting, until finally she offered him a cigarette. And then he tried to smoke it. Hae-in interrupted the dream by calling his name loudly. Yeowon was shocked by what had happened. She asked why he had fallen asleep here. He had only intended to close his eyes for a moment to rest, but he had dozed off. He was puzzled as to why he had suddenly dreamed of that woman again. Having that dream while sitting next to Hae-in made him feel uneasy, even though he hadn't done anything wrong. He changed the subject by showing her something. It was the overseas music app he used, and recently on the homepage, Long Afternoon had been featured. Hae-in was also surprised to see this because in the playlist that recommends indie music from all over the world, Long Afternoon was included. Looks like people are finally recognizing Long Afternoon's potential. Seeing Yeowon's proud smile about Long Afternoon made Hae-in smile beautifully in front of him. Yeowon wondered why she was staring at his face. It's nothing, she was just watching his expression. Because he looks happiest when talking about Long Afternoon, which makes her happy too. She asked if he usually carries his phone with him. People who live alone should even take it to the bathroom. He never knows when he might get stuck. So she told Yeowon not to forget and to always keep it with him. Yeowon agreed even though he was confused about it. Damn, I wish she were my wife. She looks so beautiful. Finally, their meeting ended with the echoing sound of the train arriving. After arriving at the apartment, Yeon had finished showering. It refreshed him after feeling sleepy on the trip. He put the items he had bought in the refrigerator. He checked the items and remembered Haein when he held a bottle of beer, missing Haein and wanting to drink together again. However, he was very surprised after remembering that Haein suddenly mentioned about his phone. He thought it was a hint that she wanted his number. He was annoyed with himself for only realizing it now. So, during their next meeting, he decided to exchange numbers. But his annoyance stopped after he saw something on his phone and stood up in surprise that Long Afternoon was holding a live Instagram broadcast. This was very surprising to him because they've never done anything like this before. They've never even seen them talking, not even real-life photos. But now Long Afternoon suddenly held a live broadcast, showing Haein, the person behind Long Afternoon, preparing to cheer Yeowon up so he could regain his enthusiasm. On the same night, we will see Haein before meeting Yeowon. The members of Long Afternoon are practicing. Haein sings with great charisma, accompanied by the melody of the guitar and bass, as well as the energetic drum beats. She practices very seriously, until the rhythm of the guitar ends their practice session for today. They are happy with the results and want to keep this vibe when they record too. They also schedule a joint practice with Hyunjae. He looks at Haein, approaches her and wants to ask about her decision to do a live version, because Haein didn't want it before, so he just wants to know the reason. So she has to explain it to the band members. She starts telling him. When she heard the remix Hyunjae made, the melodies sounded absolutely perfect, making Haein unable to stop smiling. It sounded totally different from what she heard before, and she really loved it. He had it mixed and mastered at another studio to match her style. And he used her songs as a reference, resulting in this music style. They continued discussing the album cover. Seeing Haein happy, Hyunjae wanted to offer something. He stood up and spoke seriously because Haein might not be happy. He offered Haein to try doing a live performance with them. Of course, she was a bit uncomfortable hearing it. However, Hyunjae didn't give up because he had already prepared a concept. He showed it to Haein. The concept was for someone to perform live while their face was obscured. She knew that band and really liked them, so he thought she could do something like that too, just behind the curtain for the live performance. Like the Rose of Victory, with a backlight projecting only the silhouette onto the curtain. Haein began to think about the concept Hyunjae had given her. Isn't this more expensive to produce than his average live clip? Why go this far? This isn't even Hyunjae's official album. The song turned out so good, so he wanted to invest more in it more than anything. He thinks the fans will love it. When he performs, he can really feel the fans, the faces and cheers of people who love their music. When they come out of being immersed in that moment, he feels uplifted, but he also feels humbled. And he doesn't want to disappoint these people's expectations ever again. Haein was silent upon hearing his reason because it seemed like Hyunjae had also experienced something bad. But he's just doing his best, and music only exists if someone listens to it. He also hopes this song makes good money because money is important. Anyway, if she's in, she can let him know by the end of this week. Haein didn't expect Hyunjae to be someone who really cares about his fans, because she thought he was just a guy who worked hard on music since he never communicates on social media. Hearing the word fans, only one person came to Haein's mind. The person who will love it. Even though she's never done a live show before, she thinks she kind of gets what he meant, seeing the faces and cheers of people who like her music. Because she wants to see that person's face smiling continuously. Haein decided to do it. She'll help make the live video he talked about, but she wants to add a bit of her touch to the concept he just mentioned. Hyunjae feels relieved to hear that she will do it. And of course, he allows Haein to add the concept as she wishes. That's the reason Haein mentioned while walking home. He catches the story that Hyunjae managed to convince her, and he mumbled, "So, that's what it's about, huh?" So Haein didn't understand what he was thinking. He was worried whether she would be okay because this would be her first live performance, Even if it's a no-audience live, she'll definitely get nervous because all the filming crew will be watching. Hearing that made Haein a little scared. Finally, she walked to the subway station. She thought about what he said, that the last time she did a live performance was at a talent show in her high school. So she was confused and afraid of what to do. In the middle of her thoughts, she saw Yeohun on the seat. He looked like he was asleep and she was worried about what had happened to him. She wanted to let him sleep, but she didn't want him to catch a cold if she left him like that, so she woke him up. She touched Yeohun lightly, but he woke up startled after dreaming about his ex-girlfriend. She asked what had happened, but he only replied that he had accidentally fallen asleep. She thought he must be exhausted after job hunting, so she really wanted to cheer him up. She hoped she could help him always smile. Finally, she came up with an idea. She thought of doing a live stream on her Instagram, but she had to find a reason for Yeohun to keep his phone with him so he could watch it. Although Yeohun was quite confused about what Haein meant, if this went smoothly, it would definitely make Yeohun happy, and she made sure again that Yeohun had to keep his phone with him. Finally, it was time for the live stream of Long Afternoon. Although not many people had joined yet, maybe because it was the middle of the night. Seeing this, Yeohun couldn't help but smile, because he was very happy and couldn't believe his eyes. That Long Afternoon was doing a live stream. Haein was in her room imagining Yeohun's expression. She was preparing to play some ukulele and sing quietly since it was night. She was very awkward and just hoped Yeohun was watching, but she was sure he was definitely watching. This made her start singing to entertain him. He was completely captivated by Long Afternoon's voice. Haein's beautiful singing, done especially for him. Stars and dark planets even appear, not wanting to be outshone by the city lights until midnight when the lights are turned off. But the apartment room still shows signs of life. There is also the melodious sound of guitar strumming and songs about the stars, adorning the beauty of the night to entertain someone who faithfully follows them without knowing their face. Yet gratitude knows no bounds. One person is better than none, giving the assurance that we exist in this world. Now her voice is heard again, because there is a heart that wants to love them. What the hell am I typing? I apologize, I was just typing randomly while her sang, until the first live of Long Afternoon was finished. Although Yeohun seemed unsatisfied because he wanted to hear more than one song, he also regretted not doing a screen recording. He felt relieved, but on the other hand, he was worried. Why did Long Afternoon suddenly go live? Is this some kind of teaser too? Or maybe she was just bored, but still. The song she sang tonight was so good. He jumped for joy because it was totally amazing. He even jumped on the bed because he felt so satisfied. He wondered if Haein watched this live too, lol. He hoped she didn't miss it because she would regret not hearing it. And also, this joy was too good to keep to himself. The scene shifts to Haein. Her apartment is very quiet. She is silent with embarrassment, her face red with heat. She can't hold back her embarrassment because the pitch and rhythm were all off and it was a total mess. Singing in front of strangers makes her shake like crazy. She wonders if other musicians have gone through this kind of experience too, their first time shaking like this. Her voice didn't even come out properly and she couldn't sing like she imagined. But to everyone who watched her live, she hoped it became a good memory. And to Yeohun too, she hoped it was a pleasant first for him. The next day, in the middle of the night, the scene shifts to the subway station. Yeohun is seen humming cheerfully because he couldn't wait to see her, and he felt like his fan talk would explode. He'll definitely get her contact info because he thought Haein wanted his contact at that time. That way, even at home, he can talk about the Long Afternoon or music with her. Haein suddenly surprised him from behind while he was daydreaming, making Yeohun surprised because she had been following him since the station entrance. Haein asked if he slept well last night because he looked really tired. Yeohun was surprised that if she slept, it meant she missed the Long Afternoon live. Haein pretended to be clueless even though she was the one singing. Yeohun told her about her live at 2 a.m. She asked if it was a good live. However, Yeohun was confused about how to answer. Because it was weird, he laughed, which surprised Hae-in. The mic quality on the phone was bad and the song was too quiet. Hae-in felt very humiliated, even though she knew it herself. However, he continued that it was really nice. He felt like a friend suddenly called in the middle of the night and sang a song, so it felt more intimate and warm. And because that night she sang so softly, it felt different from usual, as if she had put her heart into the song, which made it feel better. He finally understood why people weren't satisfied with recordings, but went to see live performances instead. He hoped she would perform live again. He smiled contentedly. This was what Hae-in had hoped for. Just seeing that smile made her feel relieved. She also hoped that she would be braver and do live performances more often. Speaking of which, Yeowon finally asked for something. He asked to exchange contact information with her, so if there was an Instagram live in the afternoon someday, he could let her know, and they could chat about music occasionally. Hae-in was a bit hesitant because it wasn't common there. She could give him her number, but she told Yeowon one thing. She was a bit afraid of receiving calls and messages. He was confused about why that was. If she couldn't see the other person's face, she got nervous, so she only used her phone for work or to call her parents. Because looking at her phone for too long made her remember the bad things that happened in the past. About how her friends had cursed her on social media. So she was afraid of receiving messages that would hurt her again. So it was the right choice to protect her mental health at the moment. Yeowon understood how she felt, so he decided to only send a good night message. Because he was always worried whether she had arrived home safely or not. Because they always met late at night. Hae-in thought hard, and if that was all, it was okay. She also sometimes worried a little whether he had arrived home safely, so they eventually exchanged contacts. Finally, they had parted ways. They had arrived at their respective apartments, showing Hae-in drinking while wearing her pajamas, while thinking about next week's collaboration. She glanced at her phone, which was turned off and charging. She turned on her phone out of curiosity to see if Yeowon had sent her a message. She lay down and checked her phone, and there was a message from him. It read, "Did you get home safely?" accompanied by a selfie of his face. Hae-in was confused why he suddenly sent a selfie too, so she decided to ask. He thought she would feel uncomfortable when she couldn't see the other person's face. Of course, my wife Hae-in is also very beautiful tonight. She laughed heartily at his reason for sending the selfie because that wasn't her intention. However, she felt Yeowon was very cute because his selfie skills were truly terrible. The scene shifts to Yeowon, who was in his apartment. He had just taken a shower and checked his phone again, with one photo of Hae-in looking very beautiful with a heart-shaped sticker covering her big chest. Damn! Of course, he was speechless at her beauty, because she was so captivating and truly beautiful. Just looking at the photo made his face flush, so he decided to save the photo as material for jerk-off. The next day, Hae-in will prepare for her live show while looking at Yeowon's photo that she saved in her gallery. She now has something to cheer her up when she's tired and unsure, so she becomes enthusiastic and smiles after seeing the photo. No matter how many times she looks at it, he's really bad at taking selfies, making him look ugly. So next time they meet, she will teach him how to take better selfies. However, as she smiles to herself, suddenly a member of her band calls her from behind. This startles Hae-in, and she immediately covers her phone. He wonders why she gets startled every time she sees him. He invites her inside because Hyunjae said all the equipment is set up, but he saw her very large bag and asked if she brought outfits for the shoot or something. Hae-in answered yes and seemed to have prepared something for the live performance. This made the other band members afraid that she would use something strange. Finally, they arrived on stage. Hyunjae was standing with a woman. Hae-in approached them and greeted them. Hyunjae said that the instruments were set up and ready, so they were going to do a sound check right away. He introduced the woman next to him, director Yoon-ina, a media artist and leader of an indie creative group. Hae-in greeted her politely, which surprised her to see a rocker bowing 90 degrees. He asked her to make a good impression on Ina because she's a real genius in media art. She needed to confirm something that Hye-in said. It's absolutely forbidden to show her face in the video. She said yes because that's her concept, and especially her face. Please make sure it doesn't show. So she had to make sure it didn't show. What a shame, because with a face as beautiful as Hae-shin's, she felt like she'd look amazing on video because she had the visuals for it. The silhouette stage would look cool, but showing her face would have made it even cooler. What a waste. Hae-in wanted to ask her something, that she had brought something. She was wondering if she could use it today. But she was unsure, so she wanted to take a look, as long as it wasn't something that reflected too much light. As soon as she saw it, she was shocked, because she saw a hat decorated with dragon-like horns. Hae-in made it herself bit by bit while working. The song is called Ecosystem, right? So she thought it might feel like nature itself was singing and tried to make this. However, she was hesitant to decide, but she couldn't bring herself to do it because Hae-in looked so happy. Although the idea was good, the quality was a bit poor. So she decided to try it out right away, because the props quality was a bit lacking, but since only the silhouette would show, it might not matter. She would turn on the lights behind the curtain, so she wanted Hye-in to stand there. Hyunjae asked her opinion about the prop. She said it was party hat quality for little kids, but since it was requested, they would test it anyway. But actually, it wasn't just that. I saw some people using cameras to take pictures from above, but I didn't know who they were. However, if the result wasn't good, it would just be a butterfly fluttering in a storm. So she wanted Hyunjae to monitor it too, and his opinion might be better. Finally, the lights came on from behind Hae-in, making her glow like she was emitting the aura of a dragon. She, who had been dismissive, fell silent upon seeing that. The band members also gaped after seeing it. Hye-in's shadow behind the curtain with a dragon's head, with her incredibly beautiful face illuminated by the stage lights, she began to open her mouth and sing the song they were about to perform. The melody was so enchanting, and the silhouette left everyone spellbound. It immediately touched the hearts of everyone who loved music. Damn, she was so cool, making the stage feel like it was about to explode. She couldn't say anything else when she saw it. She didn't even blink, not expecting it to be this good. So Hyunjae smiled at that response. He thinks it looks fine, so how about you? She was silent, saying it's just a silhouette, so it's not bad. She immediately left Hyunjae and excused himself to smoke. He was relieved that everything went smoothly without any obstacles. The scene shifted outside the live venue. There, director Yoon Ina sat silently on the side of the road. She put a cigarette to her lips. She couldn't hide the euphoria she had just felt, even though she tried to hold back her smile in front of Hyunjae. She quickly searched for Long Afternoon's Instagram, but damn, their Instagram only had a few drawings and no songs. It's been so long since she felt this way, the sensation of being drawn into an artist the moment you meet them. It feels like she's gone back to middle school when she first watched a nouvelle vague film, even without money. Even if it's tough, this is why we do art. The thrill of creating something new, and the excitement of discovering a talented new artist. After getting along with Hae-in, the scene shifts to Yeo-eun. He's seen working as usual at the cafe. He's seen eating for a very long time while constantly looking at his phone. Until finally he finishes eating and cleans his teeth. It turns out he's been looking at the photos sent by Hae-in all along. She seems to photograph really well, maybe because of her small face. No matter how many times he looks at it, he never gets bored because she is so beautiful. And Yeo-won still wants to have a million more photos like this. The boss comes to tell him that break time is over. She'll check the store here, so watch the counter for her. He immediately got to work even though he wasn't satisfied with looking at Hae-in's photos on his phone. He immediately served the customer with an order of chocolate drink and a piece of cake. So he would let him know with the pager once it was ready. Next in line, a girl came to order. There was a face that was familiar to Yeo-won. She knew it was Yeo-won. Last time she came here, she wasn't sure, and she laughed seeing Yeowon again. Yeowon's face looked pale and shocked seeing her ex-girlfriend return. Immediately, memories of their past came flooding back. Also, the smell of cigarettes that was her trademark. Those beautiful old memories had turned into something painful. But now she stood before him again as if nothing had happened. But because of her face and her beautiful blonde hair, I forgave her, because she would become my second wife. Yeowon and Areun stared at each other without saying a word. Finally, he asked why she had reappeared in front of him, because as far as he remembered, she worked at the company in front of the station. She replied that her workplace had now moved right here to the next building. Areun was happy to be close to him again and asked when he had started working at the cafe. However, Yeowon felt uncomfortable, so he didn't answer his question. He immediately told her to just place his order. Areun felt that Yeowon was so cold, even though it had been so long since they last met. She asked for his recommendation on the best thing here, because she had come just to see him. Hearing this made him even more upset, so he recommended the most expensive menu item to make her lose money. Yeowon didn't care and said to just pick anything. Areun stared at him deeply. Then she ordered hot chocolate and said, "Do you remember?" Because she has the taste of a total elementary school kid, so make it super sweet. But Yeowon remained indifferent and said that he didn't remember. She said, "Don't lie, you remember everything." But Yeowon still didn't want to remember, so he forgot everything about her. He said that, but he remembered where she used to work, so she teased him. Yeowon was caught lying because he slipped up. Even if she did hurt him a bit, being this cold is a little sad. Back then, they were both young, and now a lot of time has passed. So just like when they used to hang out, just say hi once more. If he doesn't, she might actually cry. Damn it, Yeowon was annoyed to hear the selfish words from this bitch. So he immediately gave her order and shouted to enjoy it as an outlet for his anger. Seeing that made Areun smile. She asked if he was upset after seeing her face. He immediately told her to leave him alone because he was not allowed to chat while working. And he also asked her to stop bothering him. But Areun smiled and mumbled, "That excuse is weak." This made Yeowon curious about what she said. She said she would come back to drink the hot chocolate he made. Yeowon didn't want to see him again, so he said, "Don't come." But Areun left the cafe and shouted, "See you again." This incident made Yeowon very angry, because it reminded him of many things that disturbed him. He thought he'd never see her again in his life. After being abandoned like that, it left a deep wound in him. Seeing his ex-girlfriend's face made him clearly remember her face. The last time she hurt his heart and caused him trauma? Remembering that made Yeowon unable to focus on his work, because it's so annoying how she keeps popping into his mind. He hoped 200 delivery orders would come in, because if he gets super busy, he won't have time to think about anything for a while. Yeowon worked until midnight, until his shift ended and he walked home. He arrived at the subway station with a face like a zombie because he was exhausted. After the 200 delivery orders he had hoped for became a reality, he didn't even have a second to think about anything. Tonight, he'll just wash up quickly and sleep. But suddenly he heard the sound of a camera shutter. He saw the woman he loves continuing to take pictures of him. So Yeowon was confused about what she was doing. He asked why she was suddenly taking his pictures. Just because he actually looked a bit different than usual, so she snapped one. She showed him the photo, which was pretty cool because Hyein is good at taking photos. She asked Yeowon to show him his phone. He didn't mind, but why? Hyein wanted to show him something. She said not to worry because she would pretend she didn't see the sexy girls saved in his gallery. He frowned and said he doesn't save stuff like that in his gallery. She showed him how to tweak his camera settings and practiced how to take a good selfie. Set it to gesture shooting using the rear camera so it will definitely produce their first photo together. Yeon was happy because the result looked perfect. So from now on, she hopes Yeon will send night photos with better results. Because the last photo he sent looked weird, because his camera distorts it and makes him look like a steamed bun. So that's the secret behind Haeun's good selfies. He was very happy because he felt their relationship was getting closer. So he teased her, if he takes them like this, will she save them on her phone? But she firmly answered, yes, it's a memory after all. She asked him back if he didn't save the photos she sent. With a silly face, he admitted that he did save them. So it was Haeun who ended up teasing him, making her smile. So he did have sexy girl photos saved to jerk off to. Finally, they arrived at the apartment. Yeowon immediately practiced what Haeun taught him. She sent him a photo with better results. Meanwhile, Haeun sent a photo of herself lying down, looking very beautiful. However, Yeowon joked and said her face looked like a steamed bun. After that conversation, Yeowon smiled. Seeing Haeun's very cute photo, he saved this photo too. At first it was just to make Haeun feel better, but now that he's piling them up, it's fun. When he looks back later, they'll be precious memories. However, when he scrolled through his gallery, he was shocked. He accidentally saw a photo of himself with Ahryun. He thought he had deleted all the photos back then. Looks like some were still left in another folder, especially since she had been appearing in front of him lately, putting on a face as if nothing had happened. But he felt relieved about one thing when he saw her. He was surprised, but he didn't feel anything else. And he hated that so much as soon as he saw her face, all the fun memories he had with her came flooding back. The past he wanted to forget invaded the present he wanted to cherish. With acrid cigarette smoke disguised as beautiful memories, so he decided to delete the last photo of them that he had. Now the scene shows Yeowon when he was 8 years old. He dreamed of becoming an astronaut or architect like his father, and he also loved his mother's homemade snacks. When he entered junior high school, he lived alone with his father. He dreamed of becoming a basketball player because he was 170 centimeters tall, but he thought he lacked talent. At 15 years old, during his second year of middle school, he became quite withdrawn and entered a rebellious phase. At 18 years old, his goal was to attend university in the capital area. When asked about his dreams, he was confused because now he only thought about his father, so perhaps he wanted to earn a lot of money. However, he wanted what he said to be edited because he didn't want his father to see it and worry. Yeowon was seen watching an old video of himself. However, he fell asleep in an empty movie theater. Until finally, a girl woke him up from his sleep. He had fallen asleep from exhaustion and asked, "Was the movie fun?" She said, "Yeah, it was super fun," replied Aron in her prime, looking very beautiful. They were confused about what to do next because it was almost time for their major lecture. So, Adrian reached out her hand to Yeowon and ran as fast as she could, passing by the word Finn, signaling the end of the story. But the lights still didn't turn off. Focus on the two of them running while holding hands. She talked about a movie. They filmed it from when the actor was a kid until he became an adult, and it took 12 years to finish. Yeowon was surprised to hear it because it was about the life of one kid. Her life is boring, she thought, but she hoped that to someone else it might feel like a movie. Yeowon smiled because she was very happy and enjoying these moments, but suddenly she pointed at something. That bald teacher was walking around picking his nose again, making them laugh out loud. Then she pointed at the professor's car, which was covered in bird poops. They laughed, ran, and held hands like in romantic movies. They stopped when they saw restaurant tables in the middle of the street. It was perfect timing because they hadn't eaten yet, so she would treat them to an expensive meal. The first dish looked expensive, even though they didn't know what it tasted like. Next up was her favorite dinosaur movie, which was unexpected, but she chose it because she liked the scenes where people died. And the final dish, cigarettes and cold medicine that tasted a bit bitter. Aron asked him with chef costume, "Does the dish suit your taste, sir?" Make him happy. When he was a kid, his dad was busy, so all he did was study alone. But thanks to her, now he gets to see a whole new world. He was happy to hear that from Yo-eun, but now it was time to pay the bill. He was shocked after seeing the bill. If we run away and act like it didn't happen, is it free? At that moment, the light suddenly went out and nothing could be seen. This made Yo-eun panic, unable to see or hear anything there. He screamed, searching for Arun, who had also suddenly disappeared. He screamed again, wondering where she had gone and hoping to say something to him. He was disappointed that she disappeared and left him behind. He looked very desperate and tried to cope with the loneliness he had experienced since childhood. But suddenly a bright light shone from behind him. A girl was seen flying above his head with a very bright balloon. What the heck is that? Yo-eun thought it was an alien, a beautiful alien with snail antennae on her head. She asked if he was just going to stand there. She told him to quickly take her hand because soon this world would come to an end. Until the dark world suddenly exploded and only Haein was now going to help him. After that, Yo-eun woke up after falling asleep at the library table. He must have fallen asleep from exhaustion as usual. Thinking, what was that dream just now? Like a dream when someone is feverish, it was very weird. He hoped the dream, like winning the lottery or something that make him happy, is better. So he woke up and yawned as his usual ritual to start the day. Until finally night fell. Yo-eun had finished working at the cafe. He asked his boss for permission to go home while drinking coffee, but his boss threw something at him. He caught the plastic bag very well, but he didn't know what was inside the plastic bag. The boss said it was whiskey chocolate and asked him to share it with Haein. If the two of them ate it together, maybe the mood would turn a bit spicy tonight, causing Yo-eun to say, "Don't say such nonsense." He walked home as usual, until he finally arrived at the subway station. It had been a while since the last time he ate one from his dad's room when he was a kid, without knowing what it was. He saw Haein sitting on a chair and called out to her. Haein looked very sexy tonight. He sat next to her and asked if she was listening to music. He also offered her the whiskey chocolate. But she didn't know there was chocolate that tasted like alcohol. That's because she's not into chocolate. So Yo-eun was disappointed because she might not like it since it's pretty sweet chocolate. However, Haein immediately ate it after seeing his sad face. Haein felt a little nauseous because the taste was quite unique. Kind of feels like there's alcohol scent in it. This made Yo-eun happy because she ate the chocolate from him. She asked if she would get drunk eating this, however the alcohol content was only around 1%. Haein said it's perfect to give to someone you want to drink with. She smiled, thinking Yo-eun was a bit naughty for giving her this chocolate. He just remained silent because Haein's words were true, but he gave her another one, as a sign that he really wanted to invite her to drink. Anyway, she thanked him because she didn't like sweet stuff, so she could have lived her whole life not knowing this existed. So she thanked Yo-eun, saying, "Thanks for being pervy." He just laughed, hearing the strangest thank you he had ever heard in his life. He said that if Yo-eun drank coffee at midnight, she wouldn't be able to sleep. But he didn't plan to sleep tonight anyway because he had homework and he could sleep all day tomorrow morning. The sound of the train arrived along with Haein's worries. She advised Yo-eun not to overdo it too much, even though he was used to it. Finally, they arrived at the apartment. Yo-eun looked very tired while working on his project. There was only the sound of his laptop typing because he had a lot of work to do. He was so sleepy that his mouth yawned wide open. It was almost 5 a.m. already, no wonder his eyes kept closing. He felt this wouldn't do, so he'd take a quick break to wake himself up. But he was surprised when he opened Instagram, because he saw a post from Long Afternoon uploading a recommendation playlist. Seeing that made Yo-eun very happy because this playlist has a lot of hidden gems, so he'll continue the project while listening to the playlist. He immediately started listening to the music, but suddenly the scene shifted, continuing his feverish dream about alien Haein coming to pick him up. He asked, "If this world ends, then where do we go?" Alien Haein fell silent and thought for a moment about a place that wasn't destroyed. Maybe Liverpool, the hometown of the Beatles, or Manchester, where Oasis was born. This made Yeowon angry because Haein was a British music maniac. Actually, does it really matter where? As long as they were together wherever they went. That place would be their new world, as shown in the scene where Haein smiled broadly while they were clapping. Yeowon remained silent as Haein stroked his face. Haein moved up and down intensely, until finally Yeowon came while clutching the blanket beside him. But suddenly he woke up from his feverish dream. He felt his body was very hot and was disappointed that it was just a dream. So he woke up and cursed those damn useless dreams. He was disappointed because his dream was too short. Maybe he dreamed because he ate that stupid whiskey chocolate. Since he still felt aroused, so he decided to take 4 tissues to jerk off while imagining Haein in his mind. Then, as usual, Yeowon was working at the cafe that afternoon. Arun arrived enthusiastically and greeted everyone. The boss responded, but he was very upset because he had told her not to come again. She ordered the same menu, hot chocolate, and a lava cake. While looking at Yeowon, she said she would drink it there. Of course, this made him very uncomfortable. The boss didn't know about their relationship, so she told him to make the hot chocolate. He was confused as to why she came here again because it was bothering him. So he glanced at Arun. He thought, don't tell me she came to this cafe again because of me. Whatever, if he overthinks it, it'll never end. He called order number 11 because her order was ready. He told her to enjoy it, but he said it with a cold expression. This made Arun fall silent, but she smiled slightly at his behavior. She called him over to ask him something. She asked, "What time does he close today?" Yeowon replied, "The cafe is open until 11:30 p.m. She thanked him and immediately went to her table. He was confused and felt an uneasy premonition because of that question. Did she really just come to drink hot chocolate? The day had changed, but Arun still came back today. This made Yeowon uncomfortable because she came again. She ordered something while chatting with the boss. Meanwhile, Yeowon was behind, just watching her. Why did she come again? It's not like she has business here. And the next day, the same thing happened again. She came back as if she were a regular customer. Of course, this made the boss very happy. They seemed very close because they saw each other every day. She asked, "Do you have stamp cards or anything like that?" The boss replied, "Yes, if she gets 10 stamps, they give her a free Americano." So she asked her to make a stamp card for her. She left, and the boss watched her from behind. That's interesting because these days everyone's into apps and mileage, so no one cares about stamps anymore. But Yeowon said that's just her style. Wherever she goes, she collects souvenirs. She prefers things she can physically keep over digital stuff. The boss was confused because he knew a lot of things and asked if he knew her. She's a senior he went to college with. She graduated earlier while he was on leave. The boss told him to at least say hi to her. It's okay to do that even while working. No, it's fine. It's not like they're close anyway. The boss just stayed silent because he rarely saw Yeowon speak with such an expression. She observed him very cold when he delivered food to Arun's table. Of course, the boss knew because he's terrible at lying. He said they weren't close, but he remembers all the things she liked. But still, she shouldn't dig deeper into their relationship. Because everyone has their own past, even though it makes her curious. And things like this are more fun to watch from the side than hear about it. Seeing the boss laughing to himself made Yeowon confused. It was already midnight, so the cafe was closed. It seemed that Yeowon was getting ready to head out first, and he said goodbye to the boss. He walked towards the road home. He walked while thinking about something. Now he just needed to prepare for full-time hiring and wait for the finals in the summer internship he applied for. Because he was insanely busy with a crazy amount of lecture assignments. Besides that, he also thought about Arun. Because he saw her every day, he wondered why she kept coming. He's already swamped, and her being nearby makes it even more distracting. But he can't just kick out a customer while working. However, his mind wandered after entering the subway station, where he saw Haein sleeping from a distance. Haein looked very beautiful sleeping while sitting. It made him worry because she was sleeping alone here. It's the first time he's seen her sleeping like this. Is she really that tired today? But Hae-in wakes up immediately and sees Yeon next to her. He asks if she had a busy day. Well, she had a recording schedule and was composing from morning until night, and she's seriously dead tired. So Yeon told her to rest a bit until the train came, and he would wake her up when it arrived. She agreed to rest for a bit, as he said, so she immediately leaned toward Yeon without hesitation, which naturally surprised him. She said, "Can you hold my shoulders so I don't slump over?" He just nodded, though he thought she meant to lean on the wall. He finally mustered the courage to hold her shoulders tightly. Ensuring she rested comfortably, they looked like lovers. Hae-in's shoulders were really thin and soft, making Yeon want to jerk off again. He smelled her hair, which was very fragrant. It's so good, even in the middle of this hectic, busy routine. This brief moment with Hae-in made him really happy. His mind was already blank and wanted more, but while he was enjoying the moment, Hae-in suddenly woke up from her sleep. She looked at Yeon like her comfortable bed. He looked at her and asked, "What is it?" Hae-in smiled very suspiciously at him. She said that his breath touched the back of her head and it tickled her. Finally, they parted ways after getting on the train. Yeon yawned because he was very tired and wanted to sleep immediately. But before that, he would take a photo and send it to Hae-in. So he decided to take one outside for a fresh change today. However, suddenly someone called him. He was surprised that someone was calling at this hour and thought his father had changed his number. So he immediately answered the phone. A woman's voice said, "Ah, I knew it. You didn't change your number." Hearing that voice, he immediately recognized that it was her ex, Ah-ryun. So he remained silent without saying a word. Ah-ryun looked very sexy on the call. She should have video called. She was happy because she only said a few words and he knew it was her. "Have you finally given up pretending not to know me?" Ah-ryun said, shocking Yeon. Yeon still couldn't believe why she was still calling him. The number was different, so he concluded that she had changed her phone. He just listened silently as Ah-ryun called him cheerfully. He asked her why she was calling. She said she was about to sleep, but suddenly thought of him, so she called. "Don't you think of me from time to time?" That question annoyed Yeon, so he decided to hang up on her call. Then she asked why he was so cold to her. "Isn't it a bit too much to act like that? Why do you keep coming to the cafe? And what do you want from me?" "I don't want anything. I just go there because it's close to my work." She always finished her work at the same time Yeon is working. So she asked him, could there be other reasons? Like come there on purpose to see him? Yeon had been trained by Hae-in to deal with temptations like this, so he should stop this because he feels like he's being dragged into her talk again. He told her just made him uncomfortable, like he was being watched when working. Hearing that, Ah-ryun came to a conclusion. So they fell silent until finally she asked, "Are you in love with someone?" Hearing that question made Yeon startled. Since he went quiet, she guessed the answer was yes. She said not to worry because she didn't expect anything from him. When she saw him, she just thought about the 24-hour cafe they used to go to. They used to stay up all night there sometimes to do homework. He stayed with her when she didn't want to go home. Yeon tried to forget that, even though it felt good back then. So he replied, "I don't know, did we do that?" The jazz music playing in that cafe, the dirty bathrooms, she remembered everything, because that was the most fun she'd ever had. Didn't they go see the movie after that conference? That movie was so naughty. To be honest, he remembered everything she said, but he didn't feel anything about it. It was just a story to him now. So no matter how much she says, nothing will change. This is peak rejection. Nice try, bitch. Ah-ryun smiled outside but was hurt inside. Now she's done with nostalgia and she won't call him at this hour anymore. But she asked permission to still come to the cafe because she really likes the cafe. He's not the owner, so he told her to do whatever she wants. In his mind, he will quit that place as soon as possible once he gets a full-time job. He wants to hang up the phone, but Arun stops him. She wants to tell him something. She's moving out of her parents' place, and what she wants to say is, her place is only 2 stops away from work, so if he's bored, he can come visit her to clap like crazy like before. Yeowon still couldn't believe it, so he shouted at her and hung up the phone. He was very angry with her because she thought he was still her follower. Yeowon immediately blocked her number, but he stopped right before pressing the block button. He decided to just keep their distance. If he didn't pay any attention to her, she'd get tired of it. After all, she's a very impatient person. And when he was upset, he received a message. He opened it again and looked at his phone. He was very happy to see the message from his beloved woman, who sent a photo of herself wearing a face mask like a cat. Although it was very silly, it successfully made Yeowon fall in love. What's with that mask? It's so cute and she's so adorable. She acts so mature on the outside, but she's so childish on the inside. He'll have to take a photo and send it to her too. Memories keep growing and special moments pile up day by day. When the time comes, everything will fall into place and he's sure of it. Haeyeon was angry because the photo Yeoeun sent was very bad and asked him to take another one. The next day, they arrived at the subway station. He saw Haeyeon sitting alone. She looked sexy as usual tonight. Yeowon approached her and called her. They encouraged each other for their hard work today. He asked what she was reading, which turned out to be a poetry book. She reads sometimes to get inspired for her compositions. If she likes a poem, she tries to copy it into her song. Yeowon asked to take a look. He read page by page and saw that she had marked all her favorite verses. She doesn't always read paper books like this and usually reads them as ebooks, but if she liked something, she would buy another copy in paperback. Yeowon thought she had hundreds of poetry books at home, which made Haeyeon laugh because she only had a few. But if she had money, she would gather all her records, instruments, and favorite books in her room. If she had 1,000,000 favorite things lying around, wouldn't that really make us happy? Yeowon worried about what would happen if she got crushed under all that. Haeyeon smiled as she looked at Yeowon, because he was one of her favorites that she wanted him to crush her hard in her room. She's fine got crushed because that's better than losing something we love. Hearing those words made Yeowon make up his mind. He flipped through the pages of poetry, then asked Haeyeon something, and invited her to go out to dinner with him. He said they could go out on his day off. She was silent because Yeoeun suddenly asked her out, but she smiled at the invitation because it sounded great. He leaned closer to Yeowon and said, "So let's take what Yeowon usually likes." This made him even more excited after asking her to dinner, so he couldn't wait for the day when they would hang out together again. After that day, Yeoeun was at a cafe. He was working, but he was in a very happy mood this time. His boss thought that his favorite musician had uploaded something on Instagram again. However, Yeoeun was happy because his day off was coming up soon. His boss didn't expect this because they were very busy with a new product. So she invited Yeoeun to have a drink and said she would treat his again this time. Unfortunately, he had to refuse because he already had plans. The boss thought Yeoeun was avoiding her because of the unpleasant incident when they last had a drink together. However, she couldn't force him because Yeoeun already had plans. She wanted to drink alcohol after avoiding it lately. He suggested boss to invite Shin Young to drink. She wanted to invite her, but it seemed like she was busy studying in the evening or something. So she decided to drink alone again, because all her friends were already married, making Yeoeun feel uncomfortable even though it wasn't his fault. He looked for an excuse to throw out the trash so he could leave quickly. Finally, they continued their work. The day was getting dark. Yeoeun was still thinking about his lonely boss. But suddenly he saw something. Her ex, Areon, was waiting for him in the back. While smoking, she greeted Yeoeun sweetly. This made Yeoeun's good mood a bit annoyed today. He walked past her without acknowledging her and only said, "No smoking here." so Aron immediately extinguished her cigarette and apologized. She stared at Yo-eun's butt as he threw away the trash. She waited for him until he was done. She immediately blocked Yo-eun, who wanted to go back inside, so he asked, "What are you doing?" "Shove your way past me if you hate me that much," she said. Yo-eun immediately walked away from her, but suddenly Areon pulled his hair from behind. This made Yehuan angry and think she was crazy. She asked, "Do you hate me that much?" Yehuan was confused by the question and her sad face. She knew she had wronged him and hurt him, so she asked, "Do you really hate me so much that you can't even say hi like a normal person? What do I have to do for you to forgive me and be friends again? If you want, I'll do whatever you say." She even offered to let Yeoun slap her. But what he really wanted was a clap, not a slap. He was confused. Why is she doing this all of a sudden when she didn't contact him for so long, and now this? She fell silent upon hearing Yeoun's statement. Then she suddenly laughed and replied, "Who knows? Why do you think? Curious?" Hearing her joke like that made him even more annoyed because he got sucked in again. He immediately left and said, "Stop messing around like this." She apologized, saying that if he had just said hi, she wouldn't be acting like this. He said he didn't have time for small talk because he was working. She said loudly to Yeoun, "You better say hi next time." He shouted back and said again that he was busy. Finally, Yeoun went back into the cafe. It surprised him that Areon was acting like a stalker. But still, it's not easy for him either. To push away and hate someone who is always by your side. Someone who was once in his heart. Even though it was just a sad memory for him, it made him stressed because it was so annoying. So now he just hopes to see Haein already. Just talking about music and joking around. With nothing on his mind and going with the flow sounds so fun and makes his day way better. But his boss suddenly tells him to get back to work when he is lost in his thoughts. The scene changes to a music studio. It shows Yoonjae singing, and Haein's silhouette looks like a dragon. They are watching a live video they took a few days ago. They discuss how the video is because they will edit it if there are any bad parts. Hyunjae thinks it's fine and they could finish it as is. She asks Haein because she specially edited only the long afternoon scene to not show faces. Haein is embarrassed and can't hold back her smile because the video looks really amazing. She puts on a flat face, but she is very happy inside because she got a compliment. Hyunjae reminded her that there was something she wanted to tell Haein. She just remembered and immediately showed her. This is an independent artist crew she runs and lists the artists involved. They're not big, but they've got independent filmmakers, animators, 3D artists, people from all kinds of fields working together. Everyone listened to her music and they discussed a few things. They thought, what if they made a music video for Long Afternoon? But as far as Haein knew, music videos were very expensive to produce. However, she told her that it would be completely free. It might be a bit experimental and avant-garde though. She could think of it as a collaboration between indie artists. She said enthusiastically that the music of Long Afternoon was just that good. She didn't realize she was saying it while standing up because she had become a new fan of Long Afternoon. She explained it again to Haein, so she would think about it. Finally, their discussion for the day ended. Hyunjae asked if she was busy this evening, because he hoped to have dinner with Haein. There was something he wanted to talk to her about. However, Haein was very cool in rejecting him, unlike other heroines who were always hesitant. Because tonight she has a prior engagement she really doesn't want to cancel. So she left quickly and said goodbye to them. Hyunjae sighed and said it's not easy. Ina hit him for trying to flirt with her favorite artist. However, Hyunjae explains that it's not what she thinks. He has other intentions about her. He's trying to bring Haein, the Long Afternoon, into their label. However, even though Hyunjae has tried his best, she is still unresponsive to him. Meanwhile, Yeoun has been waiting for her at the meeting place. He looks very neat for his date with Haein. He arrives earlier than the appointed time. Because he feels nervous waiting, he leaves immediately. He is even nervous about his appearance. He hopes his hair isn't messy. And for some reason, he's nervous again, even though he often meets and drinks with Hae-in. This was their first date, so it felt completely different. He checked himself in the mirror, afraid that his nose hairs were sticking out. Turns out Hae-in had been watching him from behind for a long time. This surprised Yo-eun, that she had arrived early. Her uncle was watching the studio, so she ended up coming earlier. She brought her face close to Yo-eun's, which confused him. Hae-in said not to worry because nothing was sticking out like nose hairs or anything. It made him embarrassed because it seemed like she knew what he was thinking. So Yo-eun quickly urged her to hurry up and eat. She asked him where they were going this time, but Yo-eun made a face like he wanted to tease Hae-in. He asked if she could handle spicy food. They arrived at a famous restaurant. Known for its hellfire noodles, it's not just tasty, it's fun because we can try out the spiciness levels. So she concluded that Yo-eun must be good with spicy food. Not insanely good, but he can go with level 3 out of 4. Level 3 was so amazing that it made Hae-in laugh. They immediately called the staff to order. Suddenly, Hae-in asked if they had level 6 spiciness. Hearing that surprised Yo-eun because the menu only goes up to level 4. She said last time she came here she even tried level 7. But it was so spicy she thought she was going to die. Making Yo-eun disappointed because she already knew about this place. So she decided to order level 6 too, but Hae-in asked him not to push himself. But since they came together, he might as well try the same thing. So it feels more like they're really eating together. That made him look cute, which made Hae-in smile. So she ordered level 6 for them and some honey pieces too. Their order was finally made. When it finally arrived, it looked like poison. Yo-eun broke out in a cold sweat at its strange color and wondered if it was edible. However, Hae-in didn't hesitate to eat it. He thought positively and was confident in his tolerance for spicy food. As soon as he took the first bite, his face turned red. He even coughed very hard, making Hae-in worry. She offered to ask for more soup to dilute it a bit. However, Yo-eun didn't give up and kept eating. He said that this level was just perfectly spicy and tasty. They continued eating until they finished, even though they were forcing themselves. Then they went out to find a place to rest, because Yo-eun almost died from forcing himself. His lips felt like they would burst, his neck was tense, and his stomach was burning. Even though Hae-in told him not to overdo it because he would suffer. He wondered why Hae-in looked fine, so he felt defeated. He was sad because he thought they could have had a fun and relaxed talk there. Seeing his sad face made Hae-in want to cheer him up. She asks if he's not going straight home, right? So she invites him to take a break somewhere with her, because she knows a nice place where they can soothe their stomachs and relax. She invited him confidently. Yo-eun wondered where she was planning to go to take a break. Is there anywhere around here to rest? They continued walking through the small alley. Hae-in looked very beautiful in the light of the lamps. So Yo-eun thought she was very beautiful. It crossed his mind that maybe Hae-in would invite her to sleep at a hotel, but it turned out they were watching a live concert at a bar. The beggar and the fishing boat were singing. She clapped her hands because the singing was so good. She said that on weekdays they could watch the performance just by buying a drink. Yo-eun was disappointed that they weren't going to the hotel. She invited him to grab a seat. He felt kind of dumb for imagining something wild that made him disappointed. But he never knew a place like this was near school. He'd walked this road almost every day and never noticed. Hae-in brought him beer. She asked about his stomach and said, "Just don't die." The next singer took the stage to perform. She said she might mess up the song but asked them to enjoy it with a smile. They cheered and drank together like lovers. He drank his beer. The singer began to sing her song. They listened intently. Yo-eun began to observe these moments. Sticky tables and tacky orange lights. Crackling speaker noise and an audience quietly listening. In this world, everything was unfamiliar and new to him. He feels that Hyein has been living in back alleys he didn't even know about. He observes Hyein's face as she enjoys the music. He calls her over and whispers something to her. He says that this place is really amazing and he likes it a lot. After that, he continues drinking. Hyein looks back at him, and she also wants to whisper something to him. She says that she too likes it a lot, but Yeowon just listens silently. He doesn't understand the implied meaning of the sentence. They just enjoy the moment, until the song ends and the next song starts. The song is perfect, not too upbeat and not too sleepy. But Yeoon remembered where her ex was when she rejected him. She was brutal in rejecting him, saying that just because he liked her didn't mean she had to like him too. Love isn't the same as sympathy. Just because he's burning hot doesn't mean she'll burn too. So he now understood that even if we share tastes and spend a long time together, it doesn't mean that person will love us. But just for today, he hoped it was actually love and not just sympathy for the two of them.
The singer continued singing until she finished with the last chord on her guitar. She thanked the audience for coming to see her. Everyone applauded her. Hyein asked Yeoon to get up now. It was almost 9 o'clock, and she needed to head back to the studio. They finally left the bar. They walked together while chatting about today. He told Hyein that he often passed by here but didn't know a place like this existed. She said that place was very exciting, especially on weekends when there were famous artists and DJs, so she invited him to stay until late at night next time if they hung out here again. Yeoon was very happy to hear her suggestion. They passed by a convenience store. Hyein suggested they eat ice cream because it's quick to eat. She asked him to buy the same flavor as him, so Yeoon went inside to buy it. They bought lemon-flavored ice cream, and they ate while sitting and watching the street. He asked why she had to go back to the studio again. She said it was college festival season these days, so a ton of band clubs were coming. He also said that there was a festival at his university too. They talked about how the club from his university also came to practice with pretty good skills. They were very happy while continuing to eat ice cream. Yeoon took a bite of his ice cream and asked, why did she eat with him today? She answered, of course because he was the one who asked her to eat. It's not like they've done this before, but suddenly he asked to eat, made plans, and met up separately. Hyein was confused hearing that, because if he said that, they've already drunk together, gone to a listening session, and done all sorts of things. So he was confused about what to say. It's like he was just spouting nonsense. He knows there's nothing left to confirm, but he just can't believe all this is happening to him. A cheerful person who says she's fine being buried under the things she loves. A cool person who hasn't lost sight of her dreams and she's right next to him. A person who likes the same things as he does, but all he needs now is only her agreement. Hyein finished eating and was surprised at how delicious it was. She said they must have the same taste, like ice cream and spicy food. Hearing this, Yeoon fell silent and then smiled. He began to bring her face closer to Hyein's, making their body even closer, and it turned out that Yeoon took the first step to kiss Hyein. Hyein closed her eyes and surrendered to the kiss, because they were enjoying this moment so much. After it was over, they fell into an awkward silence. Yeoon thought about the feeling, sensing softness and a cool sensation. But what he remembered most about his first kiss with Hyein was the taste of lemon. Hyein hurriedly stood up because it was almost 10 p.m. She spoke but didn't look at Yeoon's face. So Yeoon followed her lead and went home immediately. They walked along their usual path. They walked in silence, unlike usual. Yeoon was confused because she was walking faster than earlier. And at this pace, he couldn't read her expression. Yeoon regretted doing it and thought he was a crazy bastard. In the end, once again, he did something to be hated for. Hyein quickly parted ways with Yeoon, who was heading to the station. She took another route and Yeoon said he had fun today. However, he fell silent and couldn't say anything else. But Hyein said something to him about earlier. She approached Yeoon, which made him curious. Suddenly Hyein punched his stomach, which surprised Yeoon even more. She didn't have time now, so she wanted to talk about it later. Yeoon just obeyed her and replied, okay, while looking at Hyein's red face, which looked very upset. She casually left and he said goodbye to her. Yeoon watched her leave from behind. He fell silent instantly, under the light of the lamp that illuminated him, with the sounds of cars passing by. Heck yeah, he felt so refreshed after doing it. Although it seemed impulsive, he felt relieved after doing it, because it felt so good to him. Meanwhile, Hyein arrived at the studio. She entered the studio, and hurried toward the cashier's chair. She sat down, throwing herself hard onto the chair, then crossed her legs while thinking, and her face turned red again, remembering their kiss just now. I gave him thinking he had something to say, and then he suddenly kissed me, she thought. Was he planning that from the start today? Did I let my guard down without realizing it? She was very confused and couldn't think at all because of that jerk. She really felt like she was going crazy. It was like something inside kept boiling up. In the middle of her thoughts, several people entered the studio. She served them with a still red face. Hae-in saw them enter while laughing. This made her think of many things. So she decided to cover her face with a mask. Because she couldn't let anyone see her face right now, it was a complete mess. She took her tablet and pen to draw, but she couldn't think and just scribbled randomly. In this state, she doesn't think she can do anything and just wants to go home. She kept cursing Yo-eun with swear words because she was so angry. Meanwhile, Yo-eun had arrived at the apartment. He quickly changed her clothes and immediately lay down on his bed while thinking about the kiss with the lemon flavor. That's probably a moment he'll never forget, because that was the first time he felt the texture of agreement, and from here on out, many things will change. Meanwhile, outside, his boss bumped into Hyun-jae at a whiskey bar, but they're pretending like they didn't. Yo-eun is working at the cafe. He works in a happy mood while humming a long afternoon song. Shin-young asks if something good is happening, but he only says the weather is nice. This makes her look at him with bombastic side eyes. She can't go home yet because she is waiting for boss to go out to buy milk. Since they are alone, she wants to ask him something that has been on her mind. So she asks about the girl he mentioned before. Is it going well? Talking about Hae-in makes him blush, remembering what happened last night. But Shin-young says if things don't go well, just tell her and she'll buy him a drink. She does it, of course, because she's interested in him. That's why. Hearing the word interested makes Yo-eun a little confused. But she added a disclaimer. The word interested doesn't mean she likes him, so don't feel awkward. Yo-eun asked what made her interested in him. It's not anything big, she couldn't say. First, he's tall, so he stands out. And when she saw him silently cleaning up the scattered tissues during training, she thought, that person is diligent, and wanted to talk to him. Not satisfied, Yo-eun asked if that was all. This made Shin-young ask, is that weird? With a cute expression. He was confused about how to respond. Suddenly a customer came in and wanted to order. Yo-eun thought that she wasn't weird because she was no different from him. His interest in Hae-in was also simply because they often met catching the last train. He thought maybe Shin-young views emotions too lightly, but perhaps she was just honest in expressing them. While thinking about that, suddenly their eyes met. So she asked, what are you looking at? Yo-eun told her that she'll meet someone good because he thinks she's a decent person too. That sounded like a line drawing a clear boundary for him. It wasn't like she was just trying to hook up with him by saying, let's drink tonight. He was building too many walls. And she said, don't let your guard down. Even if things go well with that girl, he'll never know if she'll date him or not. Maybe she'll just reject him in a brutally dreadful way. It made Yo-eun angry because was she serious when she said that? The boss had returned, so Shin-young could go home. So she left immediately, saying goodbye and teasing Yo-eun. Seeing that naughty girl made him very angry, because what she said could indeed happen. So the scene shifts to Hae-in, who was inside the bar, cheering to say thanks for their hard work. They were treated by Hyun-jae for working hard. Hae-in asked when their single would be released. On the 27th, but they could upload a teaser video on the 20th on Instagram. The 27th is still far away. Too much of an excuse to meet Yo-eun. Hyun-jae wanted to show them the album cover, which turned out to be a very good image. They were very impressed because it matched the vibe of what Hae-in drew, making them want to see it too. When they saw it, the features were well captured and they made it cute and awesome. Seeing Hae-in's smile made him feel relieved. He asked if she was working on songs or something these days. She has a stack of demos, she's choosing one to finish, and probably next week she'll record it. Hyun-jae is very happy because she's so diligent, even though he's also been doing tons of events lately. He admits he's been very busy lately, and recently he even got a request to produce a drama OST. And on top of that, he glances at Hae-in, and he said he's launching a label soon. He's finally starting what he talked about a while ago, a label that makes him want to invite Hae-in too. Of course, for now, it'll be his personal label. He wants to sign artists who pursue something new and fun. That's how founding this company will feel worthwhile. They listened to him while chewing their food. Ji-won suddenly called Hyun-jae, and he invited him to smoke outside, so he agreed. He wanted to go too, but he forbade him with an excuse. They hurried outside. Hyun-jae asked him what his reason was for opposing it. Doesn't he like his label? But he didn't understand what he meant because he hadn't said anything yet. He just concluded that Ji-won knew he didn't smoke and had intentionally taken him out. He wasn't exactly opposing it, he had a proposal first. About Hae-in, he needed to set her up on a big stage once, like a festival or solo concert with lots of audience. Set her up even if it's just as staff or something, at least once. She needs a sense of purpose. Right now, she underestimates herself and is content as a hidden musician. But if she tastes a big stage a few times, she'll get greedy and realize she can be loved by many as an artist. Hearing him say that, it seems he also holds Hae-in in high regard. He replied that if he didn't feel that way, this whole project wouldn't have felt so bold from the start, and he listened to it, the demo of the song Hae-in plans to record. If he listens, he'll know this band is riding a good wave. He hopes Hyunjae will open the final door to let Hae-in feel ambition. He smiles upon hearing this and says he'll try, but keep in mind that the final decision remains in her hands. He will be knocking on the door, but only Hae-in has the key. Therefore, she's the only one able to unlock that door. Hae-in looks at the clock and there's still time before the last train. So she's confused about what she should do. She's still hesitant to meet Yo-eun because she keeps remembering about their kiss. She remembers the feeling of her first kiss again, even though it was good, but she doesn't know what to say to him. That she is actually her favorite long afternoon. They continued drinking bottle after bottle, until finally they were heavily intoxicated, and argued about who their favorite musician was, fighting like cats and dogs, making the members worried to see them fighting. But it seemed like it was normal. Fortunately, there were a few people who weren't drunk because they couldn't drink alcohol. Suddenly, Hae-in remembered something, making her ask what time it was. He replied that it was a little past 11:30. If it was that late, they had to go home immediately. But Hyunjae said there was no need to worry about the last train because he would order a taxi, so they could drink as much as they wanted tonight. Looking shyly, Hae-in said it wasn't about the last train, but she wanted to meet someone. This surprised her friend because she must have gotten a boyfriend because last time when he tried to set her up, she said she wasn't going to date. Hae-in just said she didn't want to go on a date his way. She kept refusing him, of course, because he kept sending weirdo people to her. She also started telling them that he's not her boyfriend yet. She's still kind of thinking it over, making Hyunjae wonder if he's the bad boy type. Hae-in explained that he's actually fine, he's kind, speaks nicely. And so if there's a problem, it'd be her, probably. Her friend understood because it's the hidden violence inside her, isn't it? The problem is she's into long afternoons, and to make it even worse, he's a fan of long afternoons. Of course, hearing this made everyone confused, because there are lots of musicians dating fans. But actually, he doesn't know she's a long afternoon. She's been hiding it on purpose. They're confused about how he could not know, even her voice would give it away. But even if it sounds similar, if she denies it, there's no way to prove it. So he might think it's a similar voice and brush it off. But why is that a problem? She could just honestly tell him she's a long afternoon. However, she hesitantly replied, "This, she just don't want to." So Hyunjae asked again, why? It's a really selfish reason, but she really loves his honest reactions and opinions about long afternoon. Hyunjae began to understand a little. He says what he likes, and what he finds strange. He's the first person she met who talks so passionately about long afternoon. When she sees that, it motivates her to write better songs. But if he finds out she's in a long afternoon, maybe he won't be able to speak so honestly anymore. Like her very presence would make him filter his words. And even if he stops liking long afternoons someday, he'll just smile quietly without saying a word to her. Thinking about that moment coming, it makes her not want to tell him she's in love. She doesn't know what to do. If she wants to keep seeing him, she probably needs to tell him. However, Hyunjae answers clearly, "No, just don't tell him." This confuses Hae-in because Hyunjae is too blunt. When it comes to love, her feelings are what matter. If she's uneasy, there's no need to force herself to say it. Dating doesn't mean she has to reveal everything, does it? He also met someone briefly after coming to Korea, but he didn't tell them everything. Things he went through as an immigrant, his family situation, or why he returned to Korea. He liked her, but there were weak parts of him he didn't want to share. And he doesn't think that was selfish. Keeping his flaws secret meant he cherished the relationship with that person. Hae-in pondered his words. He added, "Of course hiding cheating is a different story. Anyway, do what you want. Love isn't something that can be standardized." Hae-in twirled her glass, filled with doubt in her mind. This made Hyunjae want to pour her another drink. He told her to take her time, that it wasn't something she had to decide in a rush. It wasn't like she had to see him today, right? Although hesitant, she answered yes, even though she really wanted to see Yo-eun. So he poured her a drink so they could get drunk together and relieve her boredom. In the middle of the night, the scene shifts to Yo-eun. He is walking toward the subway. He walks while looking at his phone. He's happy because all the internships he applied for passed the document screening. Of course, he shouldn't be this excited just yet, because the document screening is only the start. But he is confused about the suit, whether he should buy or rent one. So he decided to buy a cheap one because it would be useful in the future. He suddenly remembered Hae-in because she hadn't contacted him. So he looked at their photo together and hoped to see her as soon as possible, because the last time they met when they kissed. One thing that confused Yo-eun was Hae-in's angry face. If he doesn't meet her again today, he should reach out and check on her. It's irresponsible of him to just wait after making the first move. He went down the stairs to the subway station, and immediately looked around. Unfortunately, there was no one there. It made him think that Hae-in had doubts about him. He had a bad feeling because usually a signal like this indicated that she had rejected him and didn't like him at all, but he remained positive and would reach out to her if they couldn't meet today. He really wanted to call her and ask her clearly, because Hae-in isn't the type to avoid expressing herself, so she wouldn't reject him like this. But if this ends up being another kind of confusion, what should I do? Yo-eun thought. But suddenly he heard Hae-in's voice shouting as he was thinking about her. So he immediately perked up and looked back, and sure enough, it was the girl he liked the most. Yo-eun was very happy and intended to approach her and hug her, but suddenly he was blocked by a member of his band, which surprised Yo-eun because he didn't know who the person blocking him was. It even made everyone confused when they saw him. He was very upset that he was the one Hae-in liked. The one who's been bothering their Hae-in is this Yo-eun guy, so he nodded, confused by his words. That he was telling his friends that Yo-eun was the one bothering her? Of course Yo-eun was confused by all this. He didn't understand why he said he bullied Hae-in. He had cherished her since she was in high school, when he taught her guitar, so no matter who Yo-eun is, if he hurt Hae-in or made her sad, he wouldn't let it slide, of course. Yo-eun was forced to understand his condition, which was drunkenness. He scolded him, "Don't just say, yes, He should say, "Yes, understood," while shouting at him. He was getting more and more out of control because he was drunk, so he had to be stopped by force. Yo-eun was confused about what kind of people they were. He apologized for the incident that startled him, said he's normally a kind and fun person. He can't even hit a punching machine, so don't worry. He asked Hae-in if this was the person she was talking about. Hae-in, who was also drunk, said, "Yep, that's right." Yo-eun was a little happy that they were talking about him. After meeting Yo-eun, they felt they could leave after taking her to the subway, so he asked Yo-eun to take her home. However, Yo-eun was confused because he had never been to her house before. They all lived pretty far from her place. So they asked him for this favor because she said she trusted him. They said goodbye to her. Finally, they left, leaving Hae-in in a drunken state. Yo-eun asked if they were close friends. They all met through music. Ham Ga-hoon used to give her guitar lessons, the most idiotic member of the band. Lim Ja-woon is a bassist she was introduced to through Ja-hoon. He's pretty cool because he plays in a famous band too. And sometimes he DJs at clubs too. Yun Ju-young is a drummer. They only recently started talking, so they're not that close. Yo-eun said she could totally start a band together because she has a guitarist, bassist, and drummer as friends. Hae-in laughed at his words. It made her lose her balance and stumble. So she fell into Yo-eun's arms with a thud. Hae-in apologized for bumping into him, but Yo-eun was obviously happy about it. She said she had drunk a lot at the after party today, so Yo-eun decided to hold her hand, making Hae-in look at him after doing that. He said he would hold her hand so she wouldn't fall. Hae-in was quite surprised and fell silent, but she smiled a moment later. She told Yo-eun to hold on tight all the way home, and finally the last train arrived. They got on the train and looked for a quiet seat because they were still holding hands. It looked like a new couple. Hae-in yawned widely. So Yo-eun was worried about her. She wasn't sleepy and said she was just lacking oxygen, so she could still keep going with him. Yo-eun asked what she wanted to do. Hae-in smiled mischievously and said, "What should we play?" They talked about music and laughed, until Hae-in pinched Yo-eun's cheek out of affection. Looking closely at his adorable face, even though Yo-eun was supposed to say that, they touched each other's hands, looking for a comfortable position, and holding hands with love, making them look into each other's eyes. Yo-eun looked at her sincerely, wondering if it was just him, or if the subway was unusually quiet today, accompanied by beautiful lights. Finally they arrived. They were still holding hands, until finally, Hae-in jumped because they had arrived. Yo-eun was very happy about tonight. He asked which direction Hae-in's house was in. It turned out to be super close to the subway. She deliberately picked a place close to the station because she tends to be out late. However, Yo-eun advised her not to drink too much. They arrived at the door, so Yo-eun said goodbye to her. But Hae-in was disappointed because he wanted to go home right away. Yo-un said he had class in the morning, and he was afraid he would lose control again like last time. Hae-in was honest with him that she drank 3 shots of tequila in a row so she could meet him. And yet, he's just going to leave her? So she invited him inside in a teasing tone, breaking down Yo-un's defenses. Then he asked permission to come inside her place. Hae-in was confused why he asked permission for something like this. Just make it a bold invasion like last time. Even if he kissed her without permission, just be yourself, she said. Hearing that made him silent, and made his little Johnny explode because he couldn't hold it anymore. Yo-un couldn't wait to go inside. They started to open the door. Hae-in went in first, and put down her bag. She immediately sat down on her bed. She looked very beautiful. She immediately got into a comfortable position. She opened her eyes and stroked her hair, but she saw Yo-un still standing, so she asked, "What are you doing?" and told Yo-un to sit down. Yo-un was nervous and looked around, but Hae-in was confused because there wasn't much to see. She got up and got a drink for Yo-un. She checked the fridge, but there was nothing there. Yo-un peeked at Hae-in's armpit and blushed after seeing it. He thought that he was like a perverted bastard with an armpit fetish, so he decided to look at the things there. So many instruments that totally gave off the vibe of a musician's room. He felt like there was a sweet scent too. Hae-in came and gave him a drink, but there was only 1 beer left, so they had to share. But Hae-in was fine because she had already drunk a lot today. She apologized for the small room, but Yo-un said he liked how cute and cozy her place was. He asked if playing music didn't bother the neighbors. This place was fine because it had soundproofing, so no matter how loudly she moaning, it would be okay. So cool, right? Of course, Yo-un said yes, it's very damn cool. He asked about her parents, but her family is kinda hands-off. They think her uncle is looking after her, making Yo-un wonder if she's lonely. Hae-in asked his permission because she felt a little sleepy. Is it okay if they talk lying down? Just lie down comfortably, it's your house, he said. The foolish Yo-un didn't understand Hae-in's code. What she meant was, let's lie down together over here. Come lie down after finishes drinking. Yo-un didn't expect that, so he finished his drink quickly and put down the can. He immediately prepared to attack Hae-in. Lie down facing her. He said the bed is really big. She replied that the previous owner left it here, but the blanket is definitely hers because the UK flag is totally her style. They laughed, and she asked if she smelled. Yo-un said she smelled a little of alcohol. Hearing that made her embarrassed and she hoped he was drunk too. She was annoyed because Yo-un laughed loudly at him. She started asking him with a serious face, asking about the reason why he suddenly kissed her back days. He argued it wasn't a kiss, it was just a peck. But she said there's not much difference. A kiss is a kiss. So she forced him to answer, why did you do it? He looked at her with a sulky face. Seeing his face made Yo-un fall silent, and it made his face blush. He said that he just wanted to mess with her, to see if she was someone who wouldn't leave him. He wanted to make sure she wouldn't run away, right? Hae-in smiled when she heard that because that was his reason. Turns out, he's actually a bad person, she said. Yo-un felt something touching her from behind. It turned out that Hae-in was already very horny. Now she wanted to push him down to see if he would run away or not. While starting to caress Yo-un's back, he started to feel ticklish and replied that he wouldn't run away. This is just the beginning, so don't be so sure. Because nothing has even started yet. Yo-un almost came a little, so he started holding Hae-in's body. She refused and said not to touch her, because this time it's her turn to mess with him. Just stay still and let her have her way with him. She caressed Yo-un's chest and said she couldn't do anything back then either. Yo-un didn't expect this girl to be the type to hold grudges. Even more so because she's actually a really pathetic person. She hides a lot and she's scared of a lot too. She hates losing and she's super greedy, and she's a clingy woman, making Yo-un moan because his little Johnny was being squeezed hard by Hae-in. Hae-in touching his stomach. She pinched his stomach because she felt he was a little fat. She said that his belly was a bit squishy and thought he had been busy lately, and he rarely exercised. However, Yo-un argued that it was because of the beer, because the rest was still firm. Hearing the words, the rest made Hae-in want to check it out. So she immediately felt Yo-un's entire stomach roughly, making his gasp a little in surprise. She asked if it tickled him. It's not that it tickles, it feels nice. Yo-un started to get really horny, but Hae-in just kept teasing him while smiling, holding back Yo-un's horniness. Yo-un was annoyed seeing Hae-in keep playing around, so he was at the point where he couldn't take it anymore and couldn't hold back, making him jump up wanting to pounce on her, which startled Hae-in because of Yo-un's behavior. He said to stop fooling around like this with his breath labored. Yo-un asked her to start having real sex. He didn't want to waste this opportunity. However, Haein was annoyed after he called it fooling around. She gripped Yo-eun's shirt tightly and threw him down. So they switched positions because it was Haein's turn to dominate. Yo-eun's face was already very red after Haein sat on top of him, and she said that she was serious right now and not fooling around like he said. So she asked Yo-eun how long could he hold back. Hearing that question made him think about how long he could hold back from coming. With some hesitation, he answered maybe 15 minutes to 20 minutes. But Haein was confused why the answer was only 20 minutes. She hit Yo-eun because all he could think about at that moment was sex. She explained that wasn't what she meant by her question. Even if she messed with him, would he not run away from her? And for how long could he hold back? Yo-eun was surprised to see Haein's face so close to him, and there was a lot of worry on her face. She explained that she's a really difficult person. If she wants something, she gets obsessed and won't let go. And if she doesn't want to give, she'll never give it. She's that selfish person. So are you sure you won't run away, Yo-eun? Yo-eun said, why does she think he would leave her and run away? It turned out that everyone around her had always been like that, building up expectations, then getting disappointed and betrayed. And the one left behind just gets hurt, especially from her experiences in school that still made her have trust issues. Feeling disappointed, he asked her, do I seem like one of those people to you, Haein? If so, then why did she bring him to this room to be alone with her? She was silent and replied, that's a low blow. What kind of question is this? He squeezed Yo-eun's face and said, I want to squash you hard because you're seriously annoying. Haein immediately took off her clothes, which excited him. Haein opened her eyes little by little and looked at him. She gave up now because she had said everything she wanted to say. Now it was time to take action, so be ready. Haein began to bring her face closer so that Yo-eun could smell the scent on her neck. She sat down and rubbed Yo-eun, which made him feel good. She began to kiss his entire body, starting from his ears. Yo-eun tried to touch Haein's hand and her back, causing her to bend over. This made her stand up suddenly, which automatically made Yo-eun confused about what was wrong. She felt very nauseous from bending over too much, so she wanted to vomit right on top of Yo-eun. She was in a position where she wanted to vomit badly and couldn't hold it anymore, so she quickly ran to the bathroom and vomited a lot, shocking Yo-eun. However, he was worried about her condition, so he checked on her. He saw Haein sitting quietly after vomiting. She felt very angry and disappointed with herself, so she apologized to Yo-eun for ruining the mood. She told him that she had been drinking mixed drinks that made her stomach churn. Yo-eun could only smile painfully, even though tonight he wanted his little Johnny to vomit. He asked if something bad had happened because Haein had drunk so much. But it wasn't because something bad had happened, she just felt good and happy. In her heart, she said she was so happy right now because Yo-eun really liked long afternoons. But she was scared and anxious because this care and affection that came by chance might leave just as suddenly. Why couldn't she fully enjoy this happiness she never even dared to wish for? They immediately decided to rest and sleep. Yo-eun couldn't bear to do that to her when Haein was unwell. So Haein apologized again for not being able to continue their previous activity. He just laughed but was hurt, and said, don't worry and just sleep because you feel dizzy, right? So Haein would try to sleep and say goodnight to him. Yo-eun smiled as he watched her sleep. He thought about not wanting to lose someone he liked again. So he was honest and approached her because he wanted to build a deeper relationship with her. He didn't want to misunderstand that only he was in love like he was with the girl before Haein. It was a selfish confession he thought about himself. He looked at Haein's very cute face while she was sleeping. So conveniently, next time he'll confess better, so Haein won't feel anxious. Yo-eun turned off the light and decided to sleep too. They slept side by side, but Haein woke up very restless. She felt very suffocated, so she couldn't sleep. So she took off her pants so she wouldn't feel so tight. Then she threw them into the air. Finally, she felt comfortable because she just couldn't sleep wearing leggings. She was surprised to see Yo-eun sleeping next to her. She almost screamed in surprise because she forgot Yo-eun was sleeping next to her. She stroked his hair as he slept so deeply. She won't tell him she's the one behind long afternoon, at least not for now. She hugged Yo-eun tightly because she felt a little guilty. Even if he ends up hating her someday, even if he ends up resenting her, at the very least, Long Afternoon will remain his favorite. It's the song that always accompanies him, whether he's sad or happy, and become his source of encouragement. It was early morning, and the long afternoon looked very exciting as she rode with her favorite whale. She flew around the city, soaring above the sky and passing by people, until they went through their usual routine of heading to Haein's apartment. They stood by the room to wake her up every morning. But this morning was different. There was a man sleeping there. Yo-eun was still asleep alone on Hae-in's bed. He looked like he was sleeping very soundly until he felt the sound of a woman waking him from his sleep. This made him wake up suddenly, startled by the sound. He woke up in a hurry after realizing it was the sound of his phone's alarm. He felt unfamiliar with the room and asked where he was. He was scared until he finally realized he was sleeping in Hae-in's place. He looked at the clock and was relieved he hadn't overslept because he had to go to morning lecture. Suddenly, he saw the bathroom door open. Hae-in came out looking very beautiful after washing her face. She saw Yo-eun awake and said good morning. He asked her if she was still feeling unwell from being drunk. It turned out she was feeling better, so she offered Yo-eun a drink. He agreed to just one glass. Hae-in drank in silence, while thinking about the strange events of last night. So she asked Yo-eun directly, why did he take off his pants? Was last night pretty hot because they were hanging out in the bathroom? Hearing that, Yo-eun was baffled and asked, don't you remember why? She was confused and tried to recall last night's events. After Hae-in vomited in the bathroom last night, Yo-eun comforted him so she wouldn't feel guilty, then told her to rest on the bed. Hae-in agreed and tried to stand up. Her body trembled as she stood up because she was still very weak. And sure enough, she felt like she was going to vomit again. She suddenly vomited on Yo-eun's pants because she couldn't hold it in anymore. This made his pants dirty, so he took them off last night. Remembering that made Hae-in feel very embarrassed about her behavior. He didn't want Hae-in to get the wrong idea because he wasn't wearing pants, so he had to tell her clearly. This made Hae-in immediately bow and apologize sincerely, deeply sorry. She offered to pay for the laundry or buy him new pants. He said not to worry since they were old pants anyway. More importantly, he needed Hae-in to bring his pants because he needed to go out. Hae-in gave him his pants and stood to the side so Yo-eun could change. He put on his pants and made sure Hae-in wasn't peeking. Yo-eun watched her from behind because she was so cute. It made him unable to hold back his smile, remembering that he had to confess his feelings so as not to make Hae-in anxious. So he called her after putting on his pants. He invited her to have lunch together on a day when they had a day off. He'll make pasta at his place for them, and he wants to talk more about what they discussed last night. Hae-in was silent when she heard his invitation, but she was surprised to hear that he could cook. So she accepted because she was curious about the food Yo-eun makes too. So he just had to invite her to find a day off together. And they agreed to it. Hae-in walked Yo-eun to the door. He said goodbye and advised her to get plenty of rest. Hae-in also thanked him for walking her home last night. Finally, Yo-eun left her apartment. He walked toward the campus. However, he couldn't stop thinking about what happened last night. This made his face red with embarrassment, and he screamed. What the hell was he trying to do? Because he didn't even confess properly and thought he was insane. He said he'd hold back, but he just made a total fool of himself. He thought he should have played it cool, just walked her home. So he hoped Hae-in didn't remember what happened last night. But of course that wasn't the case. Hae-in played her guitar very nervously. Because unfortunately, Hae-in's memory was slowly coming back. It was late afternoon. Until Yo-eun arrived at work at the cafe. He changed into his work uniform. He realized his hair was a mess because he had rushed out of the house and barely done his hair. It's annoying to style every day, so he thought about cutting his hair short. When he looked in the mirror, he noticed something odd about himself. He saw a red mark on his neck. A bruise or a bug bite? He didn't remember having this mark before. Since it didn't hurt, he just put ointment on it later. He immediately approached Shin Young. She was shocked after observing Yo-eun. She looked closer to make sure, and it was exactly what she thought. She asked if he had been walking around all day looking like this. Yo-eun thought about his messy hair because he was in a hurry, but that wasn't what Shin Young meant. She didn't care anymore and just wanted to go home. Yo-eun was confused as to why she had to leave shouting like that. It turned out that the boss was also aware of it. She asked if she had hung out with Hae-in last night. This surprised Yo-eun as to how she could know. How could she not know when his face was practically advertising it? She told Yo-eun to cover his neck, and told him that she had a hickey. Yo-eun was very surprised to hear that. It made him scream because he had a hickey on his neck. The scene returned to last night's events. It turned out that Hae-in had kissed him very hard on Yo-eun's neck when she hugged him after waking up and taking off her leggings. It almost woke Yo-eun up. Hae-in kept kissing him because she felt Yo-eun's neck smelled so good. Thinking about it made Yo-eun feel very embarrassed. Her boss felt he was more naive than he looked. And now he was upset because Hae-in did that, making everyone find out about it. Finally, the moment arrived when they met at the station. Yo-eun just stood there silently, staring at Hae-in, upset by what she had done. Seeing him standing there silently, she asked what was wrong. He pointed to his neck, because she acting as if nothing had happened. But Hae-in didn't understand and asked if he was hurt because there was a band-aid on his neck. Yo-eun put on a cynical face and asked her if she really didn't know. Hae-in wasn't sure and asked if it was related to her, which of course made Yo-eun angry. So he shouted that it was because of the hickey she had made. He said that it didn't fade for like 3 days, and how did she even manage to make it look like this? However, Hae-in teased him, saying that maybe his skin was just really sensitive. Yo-eun was still annoyed because there was no remorse on her face, so he asked why she didn't say anything when she saw it that morning, because he walked around all day without even covering the hickey, not knowing it was there, making everyone know about it. Hae-in laughed loudly because how could he not be aware of it? He had looked in the mirror but thought it was just a small bruise. Hae-in was amazed at him because he had seriously never seen a hickey before in his life. Yo-eun blundered because this made Hae-in think that he was naive. And of course, it made her tease him again for thinking it was just a little bruise. Yo-eun was silent, but curiosity also crossed his mind. So he asked if she had seen them a lot, the hickeys. However, Yo-eun was shocked after hearing her answer that she saw tons of hickeys back in middle school. She got bored and tried it once with a friend. It was fun, so she tried with a couple of others too. Yo-eun was stunned to hear the words that just came out of her mouth make him shocked. It was much fun back then, but they all transferred schools, so that was kinda sad. Of course, it made him feel weak after finding out that Hae-in did it, especially in middle school. It made him imagine that Hae-in was often gangbanged by many men in middle school, while he only played soccer games, damn it. Hae-in observed Yo-eun's face, which was looking stupid because he was imagining that. It made Hae-in unable to hold back her laughter, and she laughed so hard that he was startled, because every time she looked at him, his reactions were just too funny. He was clearly confused because she was the one who said something weird first, like making hickeys with 3 people in middle school. However, she finally explained that she did it among the girls, specifically on each other's arms. It made him feel stupid for falling for her prank again. Someone said they saw how to make hickeys online, so they just tried it during lunch break. He was relieved after she explained what really happened. However, Hae-in didn't expect him to think she dated 2 or 3 guys at once. He felt annoyed again after being blamed for all this. Well, she said hickeys, so what else would someone think? So this wasn't my fault, he said. However, she didn't discuss it and just said his reaction was funny. Since Yo-eun looked very upset, she offered him something. She asked if he wanted to try making one too. A hickey. Of course he wanted to, but doing it now would feel awkward. Hae-in taught him to just press his lips down and suck, and one would appear. Usually they show best under the armpit, but just try in her arms now. Hae-in guided her hand toward Yo-eun. He was tempted to do it in public. He grabbed Hae-in's arm and lifted it. He slowly brought it toward his mouth to make a hickey. But he deliberately bit Hae-in's arm hard. This startled her because it hurt. She shouted at him, asking why he suddenly bit her. Yo-eun smiled, pretending not to understand how to do it. She said to suck, not bite, but he continued to pretend, even though he did it on purpose. He told her to stay on her guard because he might bite down again at any time. Hae-in fell silent hearing his strange-sounding words, and smiled with a blush because Yo-eun was about to bite him, maybe somewhere else. He fell silent seeing Hae-in's response, and just realized what he said sounded like something perverted. So he yelled that that's not what he meant, he didn't mean anything weird. He just didn't want her to think he's some clueless kid for always teasing him, because he's older than her and didn't want to appear naive in her eyes. She looked his face as he said that. Covering her mouth with a book, she agreed to what he wanted. Then she asked again if he would make hickeys now, until finally, they each arrived at their apartments. Yo-eun took a shower after coming home from a tiring day at work. Feeling very refreshed from the cold shower, he grabbed a glass of water and drank it in the kitchen. He thought about Hae-in, then looked at his phone. He ran to get it and jumped onto the bed. Sensing Hae-in had arrived, he wondered what kind of picture she'd sent him today. And sure enough, she had sent him one. It looked very sexy, showing off her neck with a hickey-like lip emoticon. It was so cute because she ended up sending him a sticker of it. He was very happy and saved this photo too. But suddenly, a notification came into his phone. It showed that Long Afternoon had made a new post. This made him very excited since they hadn't posted any art in a while. Yo-eun smiled when he saw the beautiful picture. He immediately became the first person to like the photo and said he would analyze the drawing later. The scene shifted to Hae-in, who was reading a book on her bed. A notification sounded on her phone, so she picked it up and looked at it. Because someone liked it right after she posted it, at this hour, and maybe it was Yo-eun. His Instagram profile doesn't have a picture or name, so she can't tell who it is. He regularly likes her posts and even watches the live streams, whether she notices or not. He always leaves a trace behind her, so she guesses she didn't need something like a hickey after all. She was in a great mood right now after thinking about Yeon, so she decided to play her guitar. She looked very beautiful while tuning the guitar. She would write a song for today. She wrote, then sang, and played her guitar. A long afternoon was seen on the roof with a fish. She sang very soulfully. She stopped because a drop of water fell on her head. She looked up at the sky and saw that it had rained tonight.
The black and white movie shows tap dancing. They are dancing enthusiastically until they smile at each other. At the end of the film, someone is seen watching it. It turns out to be Yeon's ex, who is watching alone. Until finally, Aryun exits the theater, feeling satisfied after watching the re-release. Good movies really do stay good no matter how many times you watch them. However, she doesn't leave to watch other movies. She decides to watch anything because this is the fun of movie theater camping. A hobby where someone casually stays at the theater all day watching movies. It was raining that day, so she took shelter there while smoking. She watched the rain while reminiscing about the earlier movie. The scene where it transitions from silent to sound film was seriously magical. The music and tap dancing at the end were top-notch and cool. It was her second time watching it, but everything still felt new. A couple walked past her while reviewing the movie they had just watched. She stared at them because she felt lonely, where once there was someone who reviewed movies with her. She imagined that old scene, where he asked, "How was the movie?" In front of her stood Yeon under the rain with an umbrella. He said personally it was super fun. Seeing his face made her smile because he always said every movie was fun. They chatted happily and teased each other. She liked the last scene too. It really felt like a solid ending to the movie, right? But what's past can't be repeated. This made her confused about what she was doing, pathetically getting caught up in the past. As she said, nothing will change just because she's thinking this way now. She thinks it was her fault for not giving Yeon her heart and pushing him away. She looks at her phone to check the time, but she sees the date and can't believe today is already this date. Seems like a sad day for her. The next day, the scene shifts to the Columbarium funeral home. A woman also came there and fell silent when she saw someone. She saw Aryun from a distance. She called out to her, making her turn around. She greeted her as Jisoo's mother, but she didn't recognize Aryun because she had become so pretty. They chatted because they hadn't seen each other in a long time and were very happy. But she suddenly fell silent after seeing the candy stuck on Jisoo's spot. So it was her who left the candy every year. It made her feel proud because she was like a diligent child. She told her she really shouldn't because it's against the Columbarium rules. But Jisoo liked it. She always chewed on those tiny pieces in the study room. But there's no one here to eat now. It made them sad because it reminded them of the past. However, Aryun invited her to go outside because she wanted to smoke together, and Jisoo's mother agreed. They walked outside, sat under a tree while smoking. She stopped and stared at the cigarette. She told Aryun not to come starting next year. She said to bring Jisoo back home and that she might be moving to another region soon. And this would be her last visit. She emphasized again not to come and just remember Jisoo once a year around this time. Candy isn't something you leave and forget, you're supposed to chew it or swallow it. Don't just dwell on the fact that Jisoo is gone. Please live remembering the happy moments too, because she's trying to do for herself. But every year, that candy Aryun leaves breaks her heart. She also told her to quit smoking and stop wasting her pretty face like that, or she would age quickly. She said goodbye and thanked her for coming every year. She was silent, not expecting that the candy she left behind would have such consequences. She thought about her behavior, which always ended up hurting someone. It was late afternoon, and the scene shifted to the cafe where Yeon worked. He was serving customers as usual until someone called him to take an order. But Yeon's excitement turned to disappointment when he saw his ex-boyfriend come in. So he quickly took her order so she would leave quickly. But she said she would take it to go. Yeon noticed she seemed a bit off today and wondered if something had happened at work. But he didn't want to think about it too much. Aryun told him she had recently watched that movie, the black and white one they had seen together. He didn't understand what she was talking about. She said it was even better the second time around. It reminded her how much she loved the movie. It was so good. He tried to remember which movie she was talking about, until he realized it was the one that switched from silent to sound halfway through. Arian was happy that he remembered the movie and suggested that he watch it. But he said he was too busy with work. She was happy enough just to be able to talk to him now. So she teased him because today he had time to listen to her, which annoyed Yeowon. Night had fallen. Arian was seen brushing her teeth. She was quite tired today, so she jumped into bed to rest. But she forgot she meant to smoke one last cigarette before brushing. She'd have to go to the first floor to get to the smoking area. She regretted booking a high floor because of the view, but now it was a hassle. She decided to smoke because it would itch her and wake her up in the middle of the night. She took the cigarette from her bag and just went for a quick one. But she found something else. She found the candy that Jisoo often bought. It seemed that Jisoo was someone very precious to her. So she was reminded of old memories. She decided to replace the cigarette with the candy. While remembering the movie she watched, everything was the same. Great story, great acting, even the memorable soundtrack. Nothing had changed. She realized the movie had so much more to offer than she remembered. She looked at the grape-flavored candy and thought, should she quit smoking? The scene shifts to the music studio where Haein works. Uncle is seen cleaning up because he is about to go home. Once he is done, he immediately asks Haein to go home and close the studio. However, she does not hear him because she seems very focused on something. Uncle approaches her and asks her to go home again, while Haein only then realizes that her uncle is behind her. She asks her uncle for permission to sleep in the studio because she hasn't finished mixing her song yet. Her uncle asks if it's a commission job, but it turns out to be a new song Haein made a few days ago. Her uncle hears the song, which sounds very melodious. He thinks the song is as good as usual. However, her uncle is worried and tells her not to stay up late. So he set up a folding bed for her to sleep on, and Haein was very grateful. Her uncle quickly took the folding bed and prepared it for his beloved niece to rest. He asked if she was going to release another single this time, because he suggested releasing it as an EP, an album with 4 to 5 songs included. However, she had been thinking that it might be better to release a single instead, since she had never performed live, because there would be a long gap and her exposure would just drop. Her uncle said not to worry because her collaboration would be released soon, so she had time to make an EP. Because just releasing singles doesn't necessarily mean she'll stand out more. Coincidentally, Haein also has many demos, and among them are some with potential. So Haein will think about it, which makes her uncle happy. And Haein returns to focusing on finishing her work. Her uncle looks at her with great pride in his eyes. The studio lights were turned off, and it was very dark. It turned out that her uncle had fallen asleep there too because he couldn't bear to leave his beloved niece. He felt that her songwriting was getting better because before, she seemed stuck in her own world. But now it feels like that world is overflowing and soaking the listeners. And if she keeps growing like this, she will definitely become a great musician. He thought while playing a rhythm game, and he lost because he wasn't focused on the game. He became annoyed because he was a musician who couldn't complete a rhythm action game. So he blamed the game for being broken because of his skill issues. The next day, the scene shifted to the library. Yeowon was seen thinking hard alone there. He was preparing answers for the pre-interview questions. Suddenly, loud music could be heard inside the library. Yeowon realized that the festival was underway, which explained why it was so quiet in library. He checked the time and realized he had some free time before his part-time job. So he decided to go out for the last festival. Finally, Yeowon headed there. There were many people enjoying the festival. He looked at the event schedule while looking around. He was disappointed because even though it looked beautiful, the event was always the same every year. However, he stopped when he saw something there. He saw a band called Idiot. Which he knew was his friend Haein's band, but unfortunately, he had to go to his part-time job. Someone shouted his name, Senior Yeowon. It was a junior from his basketball club. He greeted them, but without saying a word, they suddenly restraining him with suspicious expressions, and dragged Yeowon, leaving him completely confused about what was happening. It turned out they were taking him to the basketball court. forcing him to wear the uniform and play with them. He apologized for being rude to the senior, but he wanted Yeowon to help for just 10 minutes. He explained that it was a free throw match with the customer. Each of you throws 5 free throws, and the side with more points wins. If the customer wins, they will receive a festival certificate. They left Yeowon to eat because they were very hungry. Meanwhile, he was very upset because he had to do all of this. A couple approached him and said they wanted to try it. They looked like a fresh couple enjoying their first university festival. So as a senior, he had to give them a good memory. Finally, the free throw match began. Yeowon threw first. They took turns throwing, until whoever scored the most points. However, Yeowon ended up beating him with a score of 2-3. He was very happy because he managed to beat the guy in front of his girlfriend, He didn't expect this to be more fun than he thought. So he let other customers try, and he'll crush them one by one, making his expression go wild. Yeowon threw the ball very coolly, challenging everyone who dared to face him. But it was all in vain because it looked like he was bullying them. He felt very happy after crushing everyone, even though he hadn't played basketball in a long time. Then another challenger entered the arena, but he was very surprised when the person who entered the arena was his beloved girlfriend. It made him very surprised because she was here. It turned out she was delivering equipment to the Idiot Band because they had forgotten something. And while she was there, she wanted to check out his school festival, which made him very happy to see her here. So he decided to take Haein around the festival this time. However, she refused because she had to return to the studio, which was now empty. So she decided to play with him for a while. In a free throw match, the loser buys the winner the snack they want. Yeowon's face returned to his devilish expression because he was going to crush Haein this time. But since she's a beginner, she asked to shoot from a little closer. The wise Yeowon naturally accepted because it made no difference. Haein smiled at Yeowon's face as usual. She suddenly squatted down and told him to throw first. She'll be watching to see if he steps over the line with a suspicious smile. But he felt it was dangerous if the ball bounced out. But as long as it goes in, it's fine, right? She teased him. Yeowon became annoyed and confused by the strange smile on her face. So don't blame me if you get hurt, he said. Yeah, go ahead and try. Haein smiled at him and looked at him. He understood that she was definitely teasing him, trying to make sure he can't throw properly. But if that's the case, he won't hold back even more. He threw, imagining himself as Kobe Bryant. Meanwhile, this was the first time Haein saw her beloved looking different, much cooler than usual. Yeowon threw very well, but what was the result? At the same time, someone came to the festival. It turned out to be her ex, who came to enjoy the festival and look for Yeowon, and with the intention of confronting Haein, who had stolen her lover.